Warning, the following podcast contains adult language, themes, and situations. Also, the film we're about to talk about is going to be spoiled thoroughly. Listener discretion is advised. Enjoy the show.
David Lynch, a man who can make every moment of a film memorable, albeit in most cases bizarre. But what happens when you team him up with an actor who is also capable of making every line and gesture equally as memorable? We'll find out as we dive deep into the weird, wonderful, wacky world of the legendary 1990 black comedy romantic crime thriller, Wild at Heart.
Okay, let's run.
I'm like a prickly pear.
What do you say we cut the chit-chat? A-hole. Porker, how'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? Hey, have you ever been dragged to the sidewalk and beat until you pissed blood?
Welcome to One Cage at a Time, the show where we break down every single Nicolas Cage movie, one film at a time. Here are your hosts, Patrick, Vince, and Nigel.
After serving time in prison for killing a man in self-defense, Sailor Ripley reunites with the love of his life, Lula Fortune, who decide to run away together, but Lula's mom isn't too keen on her daughter's choice of men, so she hires a hitman to get rid of Sailor once and for all.
Let's meet the stars of the film.
Wild at Heart stars the second greatest actor of his generation and a bona fide chameleon of the screen, Willem Dafoe. Nick's best of times co-star, who is exactly as weird as you'd expect in this film, Crispin Glover. A legendary character actor whose career spanned 6 decades, Harry Dean Stanton. David Lynch staple, Grace Zabriskie. Laura Dern's mom, both in this movie and in real life. Academy Award nominated actress for this film and others, Diane Ladd. Academy Award winning actress and 5-time Golden Globe winner, Laura Dern. And of course, Elvis's love child and gift to all mankind, Academy Award winning actor Nicolas Kim Coppola, better known as Nicolas Cage.
It's time to go over some of the finer details.
Wild at Heart was released on May 25th, 1990 at Cannes, and it was released wide August 17th, 1990. I think that was like the US was released on August 17th. But premiered at Cannes, but we'll get into it in the quick facts, but it had to go through some re-editing after after its appearance at Cannes.
No way.
Had a budget of $10 million and made $14.6 million, so slight profit. I mean, art house, David Lynch movie, what do you expect?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
If this movie had made money like, $30-40 million, I would have been shocked.
Yeah.
Of course, is directed by the one and only, the extremely unique director, David Lynch, who is famous, of course, for Twin Peaks, the TV series, along with the movie and the revival that just happened a few years ago. Eraserhead, I think, was his first thing that he ever made. The Elephant Man, the first version of Dune, which is just as unique as this film. Blue Velvet, which is my favorite David Lynch movie of all time. Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive, which is the critically acclaimed film, and then Island Empire. Every single moment of every single one of all of those projects, extremely memorable and unique. If nothing else, that's
these
his
days
thing.
You call it memeable, not memorable. They changed the word.
Memeable?
Memeable.
As we learned on Arsenal. They're called memes. They're not memes. They're memes. He's been nominated for Best Director 3 different times. He has never actually won an Oscar for his films, but he did win an honorary award in 2019. I think they kind of give out like 3 Lifetime Achievement Award type things, or just achievement in cinema. I don't know exactly what his award was for, but I assume it's Lifetime Achievement. By all accounts,
they're like, maybe if we if we don't give him something, he might snap and kill us all because he's psycho.
He might go Crispin Glover on us. He might go Dell on us.
Seems a little unhinged with his films.
Yeah, there's something going on with this guy's psyche. I don't know what it is. But, from what I've heard, he's like a freaking just the most boring suburban dad and just a normal, everyday, ordinary human being. Doesn't do drugs. Just a completely just normal, like suburban dad.
That's how all the great serial killers hide.
And like,
apparently he loves metal.
Some of the strangest shit imaginable. And even has a term named after his style of Lynchian. Mm-hmm. Which, you know, you've made it when they're making terms after the style of film that you make.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He, of course, also wrote this film, but it was based on a book by Barry Gifford, who actually ended up going on to write the screenplay for Lost Highway. And he had no ill will whatsoever towards David Lynch's many changes to the book, as we'll get into in the quick facts, including the ending. The ending is completely different. I mean, after watching the ending of this film, like no other brain could have come up with that besides David Lynch. David Lynch was also nominated for a writing Academy Award for Elephant Man way back when. So that's 4 different Oscar nominations for directing and writing. This was shot by Frederick Elms, who we previously talked about on Valley Girl. He shot Valley Girl. Of course, that was like when he got his start, and then he worked on Twin Peaks for a little bit. Mm-hmm. He's kind of a Lynch staple who has also worked extensively with Jim Jarmusch, most recently on The Dead Don't Die, which was one of my dad's favorite films that had come out recently. Edited by Dwayne Dunham, who also edited Return of the Jedi. See, I got Nigel's attention again.
I think there was talk of Lucas wanting David Lynch to direct Return of the Jedi.
Oh my God.
I thought maybe I'm crossing wires, but
Can you imagine
I feel like I've heard that.
Could you imagine?
I know he was trying to get like anybody to direct that movie because he didn't want to do it.
Yeah. Return of the Jedi is easily his most recognizable credit, but he also edited Twin Peaks, the TV show, Blue Velvet, and Homeward Bound.
Yeah, I remember we talked about that. And
Yeah.
we talked about that. Love that movie.
He also directs a little bit. He directed the movie Little Giants and several several TV shows, including a couple episodes of The Clone Wars. So he kind of fell into George Lucas's camp a little bit.
I can see Lucas and David Lynch being friends.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. They don't have similar styles, but they're both kind of weird.
No.
God damn, it would have been so awesome to see a Star Wars movie made by David Lynch, though.
Return of the Jedi would have been awesome to see.
Yeah, it would have been awesome. Would have really made audiences question what the hell George Lucas was thinking.
I could only imagine what he would have done with the Ewoks.
Yeah.
Just all would have ended up dead at the end somehow.
Yeah. I mean, he loves little people and his stuff. So
That's true, he does.
would have been a dream come true.
They're all on unicycles.
Just anything with David Lynch is just like, okay, there's a character on screen for 3 seconds. How can we make it more weird? All right. It's like, I talk about it in the breakdown, but like that guy in the hotel lobby who just has an inexplicable British accent and is on crutches. Like, just throw 2 extra things in there to make him weird.
You're in Texas and he's got an English accent.
Louisiana. He was
that's right. They were still in Louisiana at that point. That's right.
I guess that makes sense. I guess that makes more sense than being
That's true.
British.
Everybody knows
Texas.
Louisiana's culture.
Yeah. Till you go to Louisiana. Music by Angelo Badalamenti. I always pronounce his name wrong. Badalamenti? Something like that. Legendary composer. We talked about him a little bit on another film. I forget. Wicker Man. Yeah. We talked a little bit about him. He just recently passed in 2022, but he was a frequent collaborator with Lynch, of course. Worked on Blue Velvet, Twin Peaks, Lost Highway, and Mulholland Drive, doing the scores for those. He has a very unique style. He first kind of came on my radar because the Lost Highway soundtrack was done by Trent Reznor, and he worked extensively with Angelo
Bodily function.
Bodily function. And there was a lot of his score like incorporated into different musical pieces that Trent Reznor also worked on. I don't think Trent Reznor like really worked on the film, but he did work on kind of choosing the musical pieces. So there's like Rammstein in the soundtrack and Smashing Pumpkins and a few other bands that aren't normally in these type of David Lynch movies.
Yeah, I read that David Lynch, probably on the set of that movie, was asking people if they'd heard of Rammstein and then was like playing it on the set and stuff. So
That's so funny.
Just imagine that. Have you heard of Rammstein? The great band.
They're German.
I'm using a megaphone. He also scored National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Okay.
That's right. You did.
And The Beach, that DiCaprio movie, Cabin Fever, and of course, The Wicker Man.
So just really everywhere, all over the place.
All over the place, yeah. We'll also be talking about him when we do Between Worlds, which is a movie that most people don't even know exists. Another one of those 2013 to 2019 Nicolas Cage revenge type movies.
Can't wait.
Actually, I have no idea what the hell that movie is about. It was very hard to find a physical copy of it. Haven't watched it yet, so that'll be a treat for us once we get there 9 years from now. Rotten Tomatoes gave this film a 66%, which actually seems kind of low for a David Lynch movie. Well, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of people who, it's like you either just go along for the ride in a David Lynch movie or you're just questioning every weird moment.
Yeah.
Or you're doing both, like us.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm right there in the middle. I question and go along with it.
Yeah. Just enjoy the ride, but also, like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically a captive audience. Like, well, I got to watch this, so might as well strap in and go along for the ride.
Yeah, we had to watch it. So it's like,
It's kind of like a drug trip of a movie.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, what just happened? Okay, all right. If I just let it happen, I won't freak out.
Just breathe through it.
Just breathe.
Relax.
Enjoy it. Just embrace the weird. I had a 6.5 out of 10 on 53 reviews. So this is the confusing thing and interesting is the critics gave it a 66%, but the audience gave it an 81%, which I'd actually think that it would be the opposite. The critics would love this movie and audiences would hate this movie.
I feel like critics didn't really start kind of praising him until Twin Peaks became super popular. And then it feels like everybody fell in love with David Lynch after that. I know he had some
Twin
acclaim
Peaks
prior.
before this, though?
Was it?
No,
what
I
year
thought
did
Twin
this
Peaks
come
was
out?
in the
This
early
was
90s.
1990.
90, right? Yeah, Twin Peaks was like 93.
Was it?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I think it was later. I feel like that's when he started kind of gaining more critical acclaim.
Yeah, I can see critics being like, well, this movie could have been great, except there's this weird guy who quacks at people, and there's this like
this other guy talks in an Elvis accent.
Yeah,
Laura Dern is like a
there's some
telenovela
hitman
character or something. I don't know.
Hit woman with a fake leg or something. I don't. Yeah, like they may have just been off put by some of the choices.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get into the quick facts, but there's a few things that really struck audiences the wrong way.
I wonder what.
Metacritic gave it a 52%. As we've said many times, it's kind of confusing with Metacritic since it's weighted scores. It's just, I don't even know what a good score is on Metacritic at this point. IMDb, as we've always said, is basically it's the real audience, the real human beings, and there's hundreds of thousands of reviews usually on these, just normal people going to IMDb and saying what they thought of the film. And IMDb gave it a 7.2 out of 10. So I feel like that's probably where most people end up. And it did
that's
not
everybody
get a
looking
cinema
at
score.
it like today or recently, looking back across with, whereas reviews are at the time when it comes out. So you have to kind of factor in that aspect of it as well.
Definitely. And Rotten Tomatoes wasn't really a thing back then. They're going back and reading other reviews and kind of judging what the percentage was going to be.
Yeah.
Out of 5 or out of 10 or whatever. And that score is, 66% of the people who reviewed it gave it a 6 or above.
Positive review, basically.
Positive review, yeah.
It's about in line what I would expect.
Yeah, makes sense.
How about a Coppola quick facts?
Coppola quick facts here. There are quite a few quick facts, so strap in. David Lynch did not like the ending of Gifford's book, which, spoilers for the book, ends with Sailor and Lula splitting up for good, which kind of sort of happens and then doesn't happen in this movie. The ending of every David Lynch movie is a little confusing. This one, it's almost like we just slipped into a dream or something at the end. We'll get to it, but yeah, for Lynch, it honestly didn't seem real, is what he said, considering the way that they felt about each other. It didn't seem one bit real. It had a certain coolness, but I couldn't see it. I feel like I should say that as Lynch. It honestly didn't seem real. He always talks like that.
Can you do your whole section, your whole act in David Lynch's voice? Please.
I come across this car crash. There's a guy laying on the ground.
The girl's itching her head, saying her hair is sticky. It's real sticky. Where's my hairbrush? There are, as we'll point out as we go, I'm not going to point them all out in the breakdown, but there are various references to Wizard of Oz throughout the film, which has been interpreted as indicative of the overall fantasy world of the movie, which Sailor's obsession with the fantasies of Elvis and the couple's fantastical relationship also speak to that. And it's just kind of weird, so they kind of made Lula Marilyn Monroe. They sort of made Sailor into Elvis Presley. This is mostly David Lynch doing this stuff. This stuff wasn't in the book. The Wizard of Oz stuff wasn't in the book. This was all David Lynch just it just made sense. I just felt like it should have a big Wizard of Oz theme throughout it. And with everything David Lynch, it's kind of there could be meaning to it, or it could just be something cool he wanted to do, or something he found fun. You just never know.
He probably just watched it again and was I'm going to throw this in the film.
Yellow Brick Road. I like that.
She's going to tap her heels together and go nowhere.
Yeah. I think there is something to it with she wants to escape into a fantasy world, but there is no such thing. She
wants to
can't
go
escape.
home, but she doesn't have one.
Yes. Yeah.
Her home's horrible. Even if she were to go home, it's awful.
Yeah. It's trapped in this nightmare world. Once they get to Big Tuna, Texas.
Yeah.
Big Tuna.
Oh, God.
Is that a real place?
No.
I hope so.
It's the only one of the, I'd say it in the breakdown, but it's the only one of the fake or the crazy sounding names of places that they go to that is actually fake. All the rest of them are real.
Big Tuna, that'd be awesome.
Seems like a name that Texas would have.
Yeah.
Just out in the middle of the desert. Most of that stuff was shot in El Paso, by the way. So it's really in the middle of dirt.
Yeah, they were way out there.
Nick Cage states that Wild at Heart helped him get away from method acting, which is crazy.
What?
You really think about it. David Lynch's spontaneous rewrites in the film's odd characters help help him to be more playful with the craft. So, before this, as we've talked about in some of those other movies, like, Moonstruck, he was doing this like combo of Marlon Brando and Max Schreck, I think, the Metropolis guy. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if that was Max Schreck. That's
Nosferatu.
Yeah, Nosferatu. Anyways, that guy from Metropolis, he was kind of like channeling him. And then, of course, with Vampire's Kiss, he was going full-on method, including eating a frickin' cockroach on screen. And, of course, Raising Arizona, he turned into Woody Woodpecker. So it's interesting to think that Wild at Heart of all films was the movie that kind of made him think, maybe I don't need to do this anymore.
But can you imagine what kind of living nightmare it would be to method act a David Lynch character? Like just to be that character constantly?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, he was going for Elvis, so I kind of feel like he was still method acting.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, although the accent dropped in and out quite a bit.
It was funny. I watched the behind the scenes, and the scene where they're in the hurricane, and they're watching Power Mad, and like him like doing the devil horns to the band to get them to stop and stuff. Like Nick Cage just busted up laughing in that scene. I'm like, that just doesn't feel like normally Nick Cage would be like very in it, but I feel like he gets the joke of this movie, and I feel like some people are not going to get the joke of this movie.
Yeah.
But this movie is hilarious from start to finish.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
That was a great scene. They just stopped playing.
Everybody stopped.
Everybody parts, yeah.
Laura Dern, who preferred to play intellectual characters, had difficulty playing someone who was so sex obsessed as Lula. But she ended up kind of finding the character by chewing gum in pretty much every scene and kind of being like a Lolita throughout the movie.
Just like chewing like a cow.
I know.
Just nothing going on up there.
Yeah.
Fucking drove me nuts, dude. Oh, God.
That was kind of how she got into the mindset of Lula, was chewing gum. She actually broke her no nudity clause to do this film. And in a 1990 interview, she was quoted as saying, "I'd never done nudity in a movie. I've never sort of condoned it for myself, but David wanted it. And I was completely comfortable with it because that love story was so protected. There's never a moment where you feel anything is exploited. I'm interested to see what the American reviewers talk about compared to the Europeans, who really didn't question it much." I do kind of question it, especially in some of those scenes where it's just like, it just feels a little gratuitous.
Yeah.
But,
For
at the same time, it does.
The whole, like,
for
just
the film.
Yeah, for the film. Yeah, for her part, I can see where she's coming from. There's only one point I felt like was not protected by the love story, as she put it. And, we'll get into it in the third act, but.
Yeah. You're talking about the Bobby
Dafoe.
Peru scene, right? Yeah. Which I could say that's actually, she's like trying to summon Sailor to come back to save her from this evil, dummy, weirdo freak. But she had to be very like
she had to be vulnerable.
Yeah, vulnerable. That's the word.
I guess now, I guess that's true. She had to be vulnerable in that moment. So I guess it does make sense. And she wasn't nude. She's just in a see-through nightie.
She was topless, though, with the nightie. And I felt like that was a bit much. Like, she could have been at least wearing a bra or something. But
I mean, but you're not going to wear a bra. If you put it in context, you're not going to wear a bra if you're in a nightie. So I get it.
She's wearing high heels in bed, though. So
well, I mean, she's a lady of class.
Yeah. Ruby slippers.
Yeah, ruby slippers, dude.
Originally, Wild at Heart featured more explicit erotic scenes between Sailor and Lula. More? In one, she has an orgasm while relating to Sailor a dream she had of being ripped open by a wild animal.
Okay.
We've all been there, right?
Another deleted scene had Lula lowering herself onto Sailor's face saying, "Take a bite of Lula."
Oh my God.
Which I think was a callback to
the
take a bite of the peach or whatever. That other girl.
God damn, I hope there's a face-off joke in here somewhere.
Before filming started, Laura Dern and Nick Cage went on a road trip to Las Vegas together. This was done in order to bond and get a handle of their characters. It was Laura Dern's idea, with her later stating, "We agreed Sailor and Lula had to be as if they were like one person, one character, and we would share it." I think it works. I think they have great chemistry together.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it has something to do with that little road trip. I'm guessing it was from Los Angeles, so it wasn't a super long road trip, but probably a
Not as
road
long
trip
as the
over to
movie.
Vegas, stay the night, come back. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought they had a really good chemistry. I thought that was a good pairing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a shame that they've never really done anything together since.
Yeah, I think have they done, I think maybe one more movie together?
I don't know.
I feel like they have, but I could
they?
be wrong. I could be wrong. I feel like they did another kind of directed DVD movie together, but I could be wrong. But yeah, it's just a shame because they had really good chemistry.
Yeah, this film was completed one day before it debuted at the 1990 Cannes Film Festival in the 2,400-seat Grand Auditorium. After the screening, it received wild cheering from the audience. When jury president Bernardo Bertolucci announced Wild at Heart as the Palme d'Or winner at the awards ceremony, the boos almost drowned out the cheers. With film critic Roger Ebert leading the vocal detractors against this film. He hated this movie.
Yeah, I don't see him being a fan of Lynch in general.
Yeah, I
can
think
see
he's said a few nice things about some of the films, but I feel like in general he just feels like David Lynch is just kind of masturbatory in some of the filmmaking that he makes. Which I can see.
I can see it.
That's still just.
I think especially throwing like Wizard of Oz in there so heavy-handed probably was like to a film critic was like, okay, we get it, whatever. Like, sure.
Yeah.
Eye rolling.
It's crazy that it won the Palme d'Or though. Like that's the grand prize of Cannes. And like that's a huge honor. And this movie is weird as fuck from start to finish.
Yeah. That's odd. That's very odd.
Barry Gifford, the guy who wrote the book, remembers that there was a prevailing mood that the media was hoping David Lynch would fail. In general, apparently they just hated his work. He said that all kinds of journalists were trying to cause controversy and have him say something like, "This is nothing like the book," or "He ruined my book." I think everybody from Time magazine to What's On in London was disappointed when I said, "This is fantastic. This is wonderful. It's like a big, dark musical comedy." So the author loves the movie. Which
like that attitude. That's pretty refreshing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice that he wasn't poo-pooing on it.
Yeah, both him and David Lynch both said, like, these are two different things, you know? Like, fans of the book can read the book and fans of the movie can watch the movie. And I think that's kind of a great way of going about it. It's like there are fans of The Shining, the book, and then there are fans of the movie, and then there's fans of both, you know? I think you can like both as their own things. But, you know, you got to love what Kubrick did, and then, you know, Stephen King is a genius. So it's like, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, let's not throw around that term with King too lightly.
It's the cocaine talking.
Little fucking narcissistic at times, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, his big complaint is that they didn't have the stupid fucking hedge animals in the Kubrick movie.
Well, I mean, he had a lot of complaints. Specifically about, you know, the axe and the characters that die and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I get it. The book is completely different. Like, he's just running around with a sledgehammer in the book.
Yeah.
And he never actually kills anybody. Spoilers for the book. Besides himself.
Yeah, I was going to say besides himself.
Anyways, early test screenings for the film did not go well. Lynch estimated that 80 people walked out of the first screening and 100 in the next.
Wow. Oh, man.
The MPAA told Lynch that the version of Wild at Heart that screened at Cannes would receive an X rating in North America. And that's because NC-17 wasn't in effect yet. I think if NC-17 would have been a thing, he would have just gone with the NC-17 rating. You look at like some of his other films and wonder like, how did he get that to be not NC-17?
Yeah, he loves nudity.
He loves nudity, he loves violence.
Yeah, and he loves gore.
I really feel like if you watch David Lynch's work, you can really see how he inspired like Tarantino, especially. I think, other directors also took cues from him, potentially Paul Schrader, Oliver Stone, a lot of those types of directors.
Yeah.
Probably took a lot of inspiration from David Lynch, and probably David Lynch from them too. But like, you cannot watch Wild at Heart and Natural Born Killers and not think of each other.
And not compare
the two movies.
Yeah,
They feel very similar, although, Natural Born Killers is much more dark, weirdly. But yeah, they just kind of feel like cousins, those two movies.
Yep.
The director was contractually obligated to deliver an R-rated film. He made one change in the scene where, spoilers, Willem Dafoe's character shoots off his own head with a shotgun. I noticed it a lot after I had done the research to get the quick facts, but gun smoke was added to tone down the blood and hide the removal of the character's head from his body. Which you can really see in that shot. Like, even like, so there's like two cuts. So it's like he shoots himself in the head, and then the next scene is like his body falling on the ground, and there's still smoke all over it.
There's a ton of smoke
scene too.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a ton of smoke. Yeah.
Foreign prints though were not affected, and the Region 1 DVD and Blu-rays contain the toned down version of the shotgun scene. There's also a scene missing that I looked for because it was referred to in the IMDb facts. Marietta hands Lula a lollipop in the abortion scene.
Oh my God, really?
Which I went back and tried to find that, and I couldn't find it anywhere. So I think it was also cut. Might have been a deleted scene or something, but like,
yeah.
And that apparently was Diane Ladd's idea. It didn't come from David Lynch, didn't come from Gifford. It came from Diane Ladd, of all people, her mom, her actual mom.
Some dark shit right there.
Oh, yeah.
Which, in case you didn't know, Laura Dern's parents are Diane Ladd, of course, and Bruce Dern, who is the legendary, he was in Westerns and all that kind of stuff. And he is one of my favorite actors who just shows up randomly in things.
Yeah.
He was in Nebraska, which I think he was nominated for an Oscar, might have won an Oscar, I forget. And was in The Burbs, that Tom Hanks movie.
Yeah, dude.
The first time that was pointed out to me was for The Haunting. He's like the groundskeeper of the mansion at the. My mom was like, "That's because I loved Jurassic Park as a kid." She's like, "That's the woman from Jurassic Park's dad." Okay. So every time I see him and stuff now,
Yeah, I love that guy. Specifically, his voice. His voice is just so
unique,
memorable, and unique. Laura Dern's son, Ellery Harper, met David Lynch and expressed an interest in seeing the films that they had made together. But David Lynch told him not to watch this film until he was 30.
Yeah, even then, probably not.
Yeah.
And he said the reason is not because of his mother's performance, but because of his grandmother's performance.
Yeah, the whole bathroom scene. I don't think I'd ever want to hear my grandma say those words.
God damn, dude. Fuck Lula's mama. During filming, Laura Dern passed out when David Lynch asked her to smoke 4 cigarettes at once in one deep inhalation.
Oh my God.
Jesus.
Don't they make fake cigarettes?
Yeah.
Yes.
For movies?
Apparently not for this movie,
90s. Early 90s.
When she came to, she saw worried David Lynch standing above her asking, "Tidbit, are you all right?" Guess he calls her Tidbit.
Am I in hell?
Why are you talking to me with a megaphone?
Standing a foot away from her face with the megaphone.
You gotta hear this song.
They're German.
They're not Nazis, though, I swear.
I swear. That was a long time ago.
The snakeskin jacket that Sailor wears in the film was actually Nicolas Cage's own. Cage asked the director if he could wear the jacket in the film as a tribute to Marlon Brando's role in The Fugitive Kind. So it's always
That's such a
callback.
cagey thing to do.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. After filming was completed, Cage gave his jacket to Laura Dern, who apparently, I guess, still has it because he's been asked in several
That's
of
sweet.
those like AMAs, you know, whatever happened to the snakeskin jacket, and he said he gave it to Laura Dern.
That's nice. I like that story.
Yeah, it's kind of speaks to their relationship in this film and in real life, I'm sure. On a side note, The Fugitive Kind was based on the play Orpheus Descending by Diane Ladd's cousin, Tennessee Williams.
Whoa, that's too funny.
Laura Dern's parents, Diane Ladd and Bruce Dern, met while appearing in a 1961 stage production of Orpheus Descending.
Wow.
Damn.
Kind of crazy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. You know, there's been a big Nepo baby debate in Hollywood lately, and you know. And then the final quick fact, not counting Twin Peaks, this is the only one of David Lynch's films to technically have a follow-up or a sequel. There's a film from 1997 called Perdita Durango, which is the character that Isabella Rossellini plays in this film, which is directed by Alex de Iglesia. It follows the titular anti-heroine played by Rosie Perez in that film, but is played by Isabella Rossellini in this film. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's like what's the Jesus Rolls Again or whatever the hell that movie was.
Yeah. Jesus rolls.
The Jesus Rolls, I think is what it was called.
Yeah.
Which is like the Big Lebowski follow-up that has nobody involved in the Big Lebowski attached to it, aside from
John Turturro.
Yeah, John Turturro. I thought it was interesting that there's a sequel to this
Yeah,
movie.
that's weird.
Really.
Okay. But not with Isabella Rossellini.
No.
So again, why would you do a sequel to it, but as a different actress playing the character that
Yeah.
She probably
was
was like,
a
nah,
side
fuck
character.
that. I'm not going back. I'm out.
Rosie Perez is a very different actress than Isabella Rossellini.
Yeah.
In many different ways.
Yeah.
So, yeah, interesting choice.
All right, it's time to break down the film one scene at a time. Act 1. Why don't we set some shit
Our
up?
fever dream begins with a shot of a match being lit, something that occurs several thousand times throughout the film to foreshadow Lula, Sailor, and Marietta's connection to one another. You see, in this movie, when the title comes up wrapped in flames, it actually has something to do with the story. It isn't just Michael Bay jacking off to explosions. I guess what I mean to say is this movie starts out with a fire. Walk with me.
God damn it.
After the credits, we cut to a party in Cape Fear, North Carolina, which is a real place and not just a movie where Robert De Niro bites someone's cheek off and spits it across the room. We see our stars, Laura Dern, a.k.a. Lula Fortune, and the goddamn legend himself, Nicolas Cage, a.k.a. Sailor Ripley.
That's right.
Sailor Ripley or Stanley Goodseed, which one's the more ridiculous?
Castor Troy.
Casper Troy. Never thought Michael Bay without weird David Lynch in a character. I guess he didn't come up with a name, but
Stanley Goodspeed.
yeah, is weirder to me than Sailor Ripley. Sailor Ripley fits this character somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think so. And Castor Troy fits Castor Troy and
Face off.
Face Off.
I guess Stanley Goodspeed kind of fits because he's supposed to just be a dweeb.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a nerdy name. All right. Anyway.
Yeah.
This has been your Nick Cage character facts minute. Character name facts minute. As they make their way.
Let's just throw out all the names. Peter Lowe.
As they make their way down the stairs, a guy stops Sailor and says,
Marietta tells me you've been trying to fuck her in the toilets for the past 10 minutes.
you're about to go on a wild ride when the first line of a film is Marietta says you've been trying to fuck her in the toilets.
Oh, man.
It's in this like upscale opera house looking thing,
Yeah.
It's great.
It feels very Southern for some reason.
The guy goes on to say, how's that cute little cunt Lula feel about that? Prompting an uh-oh from Sailor through gritted teeth.
Uh-oh.
The guy pulls out a wad of cash. Pygmies. The guy pulls out a wad of cash and says, Marietta just gave me this to kill you, and pulls out a switchblade. Because, if you're a hitman, you pull your money out that you just got. And then,
Yeah. One of my big Coppola quick facts is Coppola questions is what the fuck was this guy's plan?
just stab him in public after shouting it out.
Have him leave. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of noticed there's this staple in this movie of just everything being over the top. Everybody overacting, chewing scenery. It bugged me in this first act, but eventually I kind of got it. Like, that's what he's going for. It makes it memorable. It's weird. It's like watching weird scenes from a stage play, I guess. You gotta, I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's Lynchian.
Yeah.
But it works.
Like, wouldn't work in most films, but it does here somehow.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of it. Like, it doesn't seem to work at the start of the movie because you're like, okay, what? Everything's just way too over the top. But the through line is that it's like that through the whole movie, and by the end of it, you're just kind of in on this. That's the style, and it fits. Yeah, well, that was my experience anyway.
Same, yeah.
Anyway, back to this. Sailor grabs the guy and literally beats him to death, while I think Megadeth starts playing just off screen. I mean, and this is like the first 30 seconds of this movie. Just right into it. Lula's mom, the aforementioned Marietta, or Miss Fortune, watches in horror as Sailor pummels the ever-loving shit out of her hitman. After throwing the hitman down the stairs, remember this is in front of a crowd of people too. This is all public. After throwing the hitman down the stairs, Sailor finishes the job by slamming this guy's head on the ground till his brains fall out in a beating worse than that homeless guy getting killed in Joe. The whole time
it's more disturbing in Joe just because it's not presented like a cartoon.
Yeah. No, it's more realistic. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of guys get their faces bashed in, but it felt more realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is like a cartoon, complete with oversaturated blood. The red in general is always oversaturated in this. And I think that was another Wizard of Oz Technicolor thing.
Yeah.
I've noticed that in Lynch movies and the TV show in general, is like there'll be certain pops of colors that are just like crazy saturated. Like in Blue Velvet, like anytime the color blue shows up, it is very stark and very noticeable.
I'm sure there's something to it, but I just thought,
I mean, I think
it might remind me
it's
of
a choice.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely a choice. I thought it was going for a Wizard of Oz Technicolor type thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Everything
I think
being
so
overcolored.
It's kind of like when those little pops of colors comes in. Those were actually done in camera with like little things that came over the screen, and he said it was a callback to like Wizard of Oz and old films and Panavision in general. This was shot on a Panavision camera, so kind of the same style as those old films.
The whole time this is going on, Lula screams, "Sailor!" at the top of her lungs. Once the deed is done, Sailor throws the guy's lifeless body against a wall, lights a cigarette, and then points at Lula's mom with a bloody hand while she snarls back at him. We cut to PD Correctional Institution, which, believe it or not, is a real thing. The Great PD River runs through both Carolinas. I thought that was a fake place, but as you said, every place in this is real except for Big Tuna.
Yeah, Cape Fear is a real place.
Ridiculous places.
PD
New
River.
Orleans?
I
Who the hell
actually,
names a place that?
when I was driving, I drove to Myrtle Beach from Charleston, and I crossed the PD River, and I was like, "Hey, there's that thing."
We see Sailor being put behind bars. Then we cut to a hand over a crystal ball and see the words 22 months, 18 days later. We see Sailor calling Lula's house, presumably to complain about the cellmate who keeps talking about sand, the guy who stole his pink snowballs, or the guy who won't stop yammering on about Zeus's butthole. It's in a lot of it. Nicolas Cage gets incarcerated a lot in these movies for some reason.
We've only done like 32 movies or 34 movies. He's been in jail like 5 different times.
Yeah, he's been behind bars.
Yeah, I was
another
trying to
tracker, jail tracker.
Right. Jail tracker. Because there's those 3 right there. And then there's, what was it? Trapped in Paradise. There's another one. He gets out of jail in Con Air.
Con Air. Wild at Heart, of course.
Face Off.
Face Off. He's in jail in like every movie.
Yeah, what the hell?
Grand Isle. That mansion's
he doesn't make it
goes
jail.
to jail.
that
in Grand
mansion
Isle.
is a jail, dude. He lives in a prison of his own mind.
All right. Marietta picks up the phone and isn't pleased that the guy she tried to have rubbed out is the worst hitman of all time is calling her daughter and says if he even thinks about seeing Lula, he's dead. But Sailor just smiles and says, "What?"
I love that delivery from Cage.
If you even think about seeing Lula, you're dead.
What?
You heard me.
What?
Chris Bitch says, "What?" He slams down the phone, which was a way more satisfying way of getting off the phone than we have these days, while Lula comes downstairs to see what all the commotion is and if her mom can help her, since she seems to have glued her arm to the back of her head.
Just doing this the whole time.
I know.
Marietta tells her she's never going to see Sailor again, and Lula says, "Like hell," and runs off to her bedroom to look for the goo gone. Then Marietta looks directly into the camera and chugs a martini in an extremely awkward fashion that's really off-putting and very Lynchian.
It's very strange.
Hope you don't have an aversion to swallowing sounds and mouth sounds.
I absolutely do. I hate that so much.
We come back to the prison where Sailor is out front putting out the vibes, instantly making all women in the first row of 1990s screenings pregnant, and is surprised when Lula shows up in a convertible. She calls him baby, and he calls her peanut and tosses him his snakeskin jacket. As he slips it on, he says, "Did I ever tell you this here jacket represents a symbol of my individuality and my belief in personal freedom?" She says, "About 50,000 times." And judging by the fact that he says it again in like 2 minutes, she's telling the truth. She tells him that she got him a room at the Cape Fear and that Power Mad is playing at the Hurricane. So I guess we're about to find out what it's really like when worlds collide. Oh, no, wait. Power Mad is not Power Man. That's what I thought they were going to see too. And then it's thrash metal for some reason. Then she asks him, "Are you ready to go? Because I'm ready to go." And they peel out as Sailor says, "Stab it and steer," which is the same thing my wife said on our honeymoon. Next, we see them passionately make love for a second while the color red envelops the screen for some reason. Sailor lays on the bed. It's just like Schindler's List. The color red.
There was a point for that one.
Sailor lays on the bed with a radio on his feet, which are up in the air, as you do, and Lula compliments how good his little sailor made her feel. She recounts a story about her mom telling her at 15 to let her know before she goes out and has sex for the first time. And Sailor says, "But honey, I thought you told me your Uncle Pooch raped you when you was 13. Way to kill the mood, asshole. She says, "That's true. But I guess he wasn't actually her uncle, but one of her dad's business partners, so that's cool. In case talking about her getting raped at 13 wasn't awful enough, we flash to the guy calling her a pumpkin, throwing a dirty rag at her, and we see that he also busted open her face while raping her. So that's cool. Marietta comes in to see her daughter bleeding bottomless in the bed with hair curlers in, and she loses it on Uncle Pooch. What family fun. Next, we see Lula thinking back on that guy driving off a cliff like 3 months later and how bad the traffic is in Myrtle Beach.
I'm glad you didn't drive off a cliff, Patrick, while you were in Myrtle Beach.
I mean, I wanted to.
Hey, it's that cliff.
Hey, I'm in Myrtle Beach.
She says that the ozone layer is disappearing and one day the sun will come out and burn a hole through the planet like an electrical X-ray. So say what you will about David Lynch's filmmaking style, but there's zero way of knowing what the hell's coming next scene by scene throughout the entire film. You just have to sit there and enjoy it.
Yep. Just let it wash over you like an acid trip.
Yeah, like you said, maybe it means something, maybe it doesn't. Who knows? That's part of the fun.
Maybe there are worms just crawling on your arm. You don't know.
Sailor reassures her that the planet won't end in their lifetime. Boomer logic. And by the time it does happen, people will still be driving Buicks to the moon. Yeah, again, boomer logic. That's why we're still in this fucking position 30 years later.
She's trying to warn him about climate change, but he just wouldn't listen.
They
goes
overhear
back to their smoking too, like smoking every second, including when she's pregnant,
while talking about family members dying of lung cancer from smoking.
Yeah. 10 seconds from now. Actually.
Yeah. They overhear the crypt keeper cackling in the room next to theirs, and Lula says the laugh creeps her out and that it sounds like something she's heard before. Sailor says it sounds like an old gal getting railed in the next room and asks her if she's ready to go do some dancing. I'm guessing it was supposed to be her mom cackling.
It's
like the Wicked
call
Witch.
back to that laugh that we hear when Santos is like leaving the house after
setting her dad on fire.
Setting her dad on fire.
Yeah. We cut to Misfortune hanging out with that guy from that thing. You know, the one thing.
The thing that he was in.
Yeah. Alien.
I feel like most modern audiences will recognize him as the janitor guy from the Avengers, but he was in everything. As I pointed out in the starring, he had a 6-decade-long career. Harry Dean Stanton did 6 decades worth of acting credits. Crazy.
Yeah. I must know him from Alien.
Yes. Yeah.
She says she's going to hire a hitman if that guy from that thing, a.k.a. Johnny Farragut, doesn't help her stop Lula from seeing Sailor. She says she's going to call Marcelo Santos, and Johnny says not to involve Santos and his bunch into this. Johnny seems to get worried Marietta is banging the Santos guy, which brings out his jealous, ugly side. Then Marietta gets down on the floor, and the two of them play peekaboo as she roars at him like a lion, which is standard relationship stuff, I guess. Everything has to be weird and off-putting.
We all do that.
And he likes watching later on. We like. I guess that kind of explains why he likes watching wild dogs rip an animal carcass to shreds later on and barks at him.
Can't have a normal moment. Fucking weird. Every moment is just fucking weird.
She again presses Johnny to help her get Sailor out of Lula's life, and he defends Sailor, saying she should be thanking Sailor for protecting her daughter from a man with a knife. We again cut back to the party from the opening scene where we see Marietta followed Sailor into the bathroom before the whole manslaughter incident. She comes into the bathroom sloshed as Sailor is peeing at a urinal, saying,
Sailor boy! How would you like to fuck Lula's mom?
As Sailor giggles at her, he politely declines her gracious invitation while practically standing inside the urinal. But she comes back with Lula's mom would like to fuck you. Again, to a man who just finished pissing and is then backed into the urinal he just used. I'm pretty sure that's how you'd end up with at least a yeast infection. Anyway, she pulls him into a stall as he tells her she needs to sober up. God, it creeped me out.
Yeah.
Bravo, Lynch. we cut back to Misfortune and Johnny, where she says, all I know is he killed a man with his bare hands, and those hands are probably all over my baby right now. And he comforts her by saying he's going to do everything he can to make sure she comes back home safe. We cut to the hands of that killer shining his cowboy boots. He says, let's go dancing, Peanut. Snaps his fingers and says, I'm ready. Slay me. Lula says they better be careful since her mom will be sicking old man Johnny on them like a duck on a June bug. She says he's a clever detective since he once told her he could find an honest man in Washington.
She's like there's moments of her just being intentionally really stupid. And I think that was on purpose. I think.
Yeah.
Make her seem very naive, especially in this first part when we see her when she's a little bit older. She doesn't seem as naive, but she still seems naive even then. But yeah, I think they were trying to go for this kind of childlike innocence with her.
Right. Yeah. Never been out from under her mama's rule of thumb or whatever.
Yeah.
She thinks going to California is the land of opportunity.
I mean, look at Patrick.
All dreams come true in California.
Yeah.
But I guess if you're coming from South Carolina or wherever the hell they were from.
Honestly, yes. You spend 10 minutes in South Carolina, you'll be like, yeah, California would be amazing.
Sailor says that Lula is 20 years old, so why the hell does her mom care if they're together or not? It says there's more to the story of him killing Bob Ray Lemon, the hitman guy from the beginning. We cut back to Sailor and Marietta in the bathroom stall where she says she just wants to kiss him goodbye since he knows too many things about her. She says she knows Sailor used to be a driver for Marcelo Santos and that he witnessed something he shouldn't have. She says one night he got too close to a fire, so he's going to burn. They start to starting to understand how all this stuff ties together. It's a little obfuscated. It's a little hard to follow.
It's honestly like a very simple story, but it's presented to us in such a weird way that it's like it seems much more complicated than it actually is.
Then she says he's a piece of shit, and we cut to a toilet full of milk, I think. I hope. I don't know. She says she'd never let a piece of shit like him hang out with her little girl. Sailor says, you filthy piece of white trash, in a very cagey delivery, and then grabs her by the collar and punches the toilet stall wall while saying, you're going to have to kill me to keep me away from Lula. She says she'll make good on that, and before she does, she's going to cut off his balls and feed them to him. I feel like we've all got this kind of relationship with our mother-in-laws. We cut back to Lula and Sailor in their hotel room where he says, Peanut, I'm thinking about breaking parole and taking you to sunny California. And she's overjoyed. She says she'd go to the far end of the world for him, and he says, rockin' good news. He throws on his snakeskin jacket, asks her if her toenails are dry, punches the air like Elvis, and says,
we got some dancing to do.
Iconic.
I love that shot so much.
Yeah.
Me too.
That hurt on the bed.
Awesome.
Stomping feet. We cut to them dancing to some thrash metal at the Hurricane, which is all sorts of awesome. Cage punches and kicks the air. Lula grinds up on him while a strobe light goes off. It's just weird and badass at the same time. Some dude starts dancing with Lula for like a millisecond while Sailor gives the band some devil horns, which causes them to stop playing completely. Sailor points at the guy who was dancing with his girl and says, are you going to provide me with an opportunity to prove my love to my girl, or are you going to save yourself some trouble, step up like a gentleman and apologize to her?
We never really mentioned that he's basically doing an Elvis impression in the entire film.
Yeah.
It's better than his Bogart.
Rockin' good news. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, way better. Way better.
Also, his singing is much better than his family man singing. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, how did they manage that to make it sound good?
Multiple takes. It was done in a studio ahead of time, and then he lip synced.
So they got like actual studio musicians or studio
engineers,
a studio recording to like coach him to how to make a song.
I mean, I think it was supposed to be intentionally off key and the family man and shitty.
Yeah,
true. Just show that he's not really comfortable in these situations.
Yeah, but he's a doofus too.
And this one, he's just literally the fucking coolest guy on the planet and just stops a band and they know exactly which song to play with him.
Well, we know he can sing operatic too, so
that's
he's got some talent. The guy's slightly less confused than us watching this unfold and simply says, "Don't fuck with me, man," and says Sailor looks like a clown in his stupid jacket, which prompts him to say, "This is a snakeskin jacket, and for me, it's a symbol of my individuality and my belief in personal freedom." Sailor throws the guy to the ground and tells him to apologize to Lula for kind of dancing with her for like 10 seconds. He pathetically says, "I'm sorry," and Lula says, "Well, hell, you just bumped up against the wrong girl is all." Sailor tells the guy to go get himself a beer and then asks for the mic and starts singing an Elvis song with the band. What the surreal fuck is happening?
So he was in jail for, I'm assuming, multiple years, right? Like, when did he have a chance to develop this kind of relationship with this band to where he could just walk into the club and just fucking grab the mic and he takes center stage? Like, he's literally in the middle of the mosh pit with everybody surrounding him.
I'm guessing there's this whole like fantasy element to this movie. So it's like, this is how Lula sees him. Maybe he's just that cool kind of guy. He's the center of everything. He can stop a band and, he can protect her from guys that just want to dance with her, I guess. And
that guy like danced with her for 10 seconds, man.
And then serenade her with an Elvis song.
Yeah. I mean, he was only in jail for just under 2 years.
Yeah.
So
for
maybe
the manslaughter thing, right?
For what?
For manslaughter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe
and then he's in
like,
jail for 6 years for
bank robbery,
robbing the feed store. So maybe it's like a Valley Girl thing, dude, where he just knows everybody. He knew everybody prior to going to jail, dude.
No, you didn't.
Sailor sings "Love Me" by Elvis Presley to Lula in its entirety while someone sits on a keyboard with a Scream sample programmed to the keys. The whole time this is happening, the crowd scream for Sailor. Lula dances all sexy like, and all the women in the crowd get damper than a Mississippi tree stump.
That paints a picture.
We cut to Sailor and Lula passionately slamming their rockin' bods together back at the hotel, where this time the color yellow envelops the screen. In the middle of sex, Lula asks why he didn't sing her "Love Me Tender" since it's Sailor's favorite song, and he says because he'll only ever sing "Love Me Tender" to his wife. We again see a match being struck with close-ups of the match head and then back to the fire of a cigarette Lula is smoking after being Ripley'd in half by her lover's little sailor. She asks if he ever thinks of the Wicked Witch of the East coming to get them, because who doesn't, right?
Which, by the way, it's the Wicked Witch of the West. The good one was the East.
East, yeah.
But that's, again, like showing her naivety.
Right. We cut to a witch on a broom who just so happens to be Lula's mom, Marietta, then to some glass on fire, which we've seen 3 to 4 times now, and then back to Sailor, who says, "I really did miss your mind while I was out at Petey, baby." She's got such a head for knowing. He goes on to say that the way her head works is God's own private mystery. Such a backhanded compliment. Backhanded insult.
It's like 4 different times where like she starts a story and he's like, "God damn it. Here we go."
Yeah.
They have a fun conversation. They have a fun conversation about cigarettes where he says he started smoking when he was 4 years old. Yeah, 4. And he's really proud that he smokes the same brand his mom smoked, even though she died of lung cancer. He says he didn't have much parental guidance growing up since his mom died of cancer and his dad died of an alcohol-related illness, which Sailor's public defender kept saying at his parole hearing.
Ties into the ending.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, how?
I'm wild at heart. I didn't have parental guidance growing up.
Right. She says she'd stand by him no matter what, and says he moves her deeper than anyone. He hilariously stares at her breasts and says, "You're perfect for me too." And then she says, "You remind me of my daddy." Pretty standard pillow talk, really, I guess, for the South.
I love how she's all like, "You move me deeper than anybody." And then he just like stops and stares at her breast, grabs it, and he's like, "You're perfect for me too."
She says her dad liked skinny women with breasts that stood up and said hello, and that he had a long nose, just like Nicolas Cage.
I think Freud was onto something here.
Yeah. Even
Roman nose.
Just like David Lynch, just have that tender moment between characters still has to be awkward and creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Off-putting. Then she asks if she ever told him how her daddy died, and he says, "In a fire, as I recall." We cut to that burning glass again while she tells the story of her dad pouring kerosene on himself and striking a match like that monk who immolated himself during the protests of the Vietnam War. We see a guy on fire running through a residential house, which has apparently caused the fire we've been seeing flashing to us every 2 minutes of this film so far. Lula says her dad died a year before she met Sailor, and we see a conflicted look on his face as if he wants to tell her something, but instead he just squeezes her boob for a second, then puts his little Sailor back into Lula's catcher's mitt.
God damn it.
We cut to Johnny on the phone with Marietta, where he says he hasn't found the kids yet, and she tells him to call her as soon as he gets to New Orleans, which feels like a continuity error because they haven't even left Cape Fear yet. So how does he know where they're headed, that they're headed anywhere, etc.? Because I guess Lula always talked about wanting to go to New Orleans or something.
Yeah, she says like she's always talking about that town, but like they hadn't even left the town that they're from yet.
So he took off to presumably that she was going there, because he's at like some hotel watching wild dogs rip a carcass apart, right?
No, that's later.
That's a little bit later.
All right, okay.
That's when he's in New Orleans.
Yeah, that's
the
right.
big N.O., as everybody calls it.
Had they not left? I thought they
hadn't left. They're in the Cape Fear Hotel still because they went to
the
hurricane.
That's right.
And then went back to the hotel and banged.
And that's where she said that she wanted to go to California.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or he was saying he wanted to
to
break
take her.
parole and go to California.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's weird. There's a lot of those little like timeline things where it almost seems like Marietta and Johnny's scenes are like one scene ahead of where Lula and Sailor's scenes are, which I think was done on purpose. Kind of like that Naked Lunch style of storytelling where you just jumble shit up
Flash forward
just to make it
and
more
then-
confusing.
Yeah, interesting. We see Lula and Sailor on the road smoking like it's 1990. She says, "Well, I guess you broke parole now since they left the state." We cut back and forth between them and Marietta meeting with Santos. Lula is smoking something slightly less carcinogenic, I guess, so Sailor asks her why she's worrying about what's bad for her since she's crossing state lines with an A1 certified murderer. She says it was manslaughter and not to exaggerate. Tomato, really. He's the Duke, A1.
Just very violently bashed a guy's head in on the fucking floor for no really good reason, honestly. Like, just a really violent way to kill a guy.
It's self-defense.
I guess. It is. It is.
We cut back to Santos saying, "You want me to shoot Sailor in the brains with a gun?" Marietta says yes. And then he says, "It's always best to blow a hole through the back of the head, right through the bridge of the nose, while smirking like a maniac." Much more damage that way.
I think we're just supposed to be creeped out by this guy right away.
Yeah.
There's always a character like this in every David Lynch movie. I don't know why. It's just like some just over-the-top creepy character who's just creepy for the sake of creepy.
I think
So like in Lost Highway, it was what's his name? The guy who was actually convicted of murder, Robert Blake.
Who
was
in,
he was in Lost Highway, and he was just creepy as all fuck in that movie. He just kind of showed up and was scary and then left, just like in real life. In Cold Blood, I think that was the show that he was in, and he was in Beretta. Creepiest motherfucker ever. Anyways, there's always this like weirdly vague criminal element in all of these David Lynch movies. Like in Blue Velvet, there's just like a criminal organization that just is just there, and then you don't really know what they do and who they're connected to.
I think it's just he needs to keep the audience unsettled. So that's a good way to do it. Just there's some seedy shit going on in this reality. I think it's just maybe it's how he views the world. Like there's this seedy shit that exists in real life, so why not have it be running as an undercurrent to your movie, no matter what it's about.
Also, by the way, this is like the third time that we've had a kind of mob of some sort that's based in New Orleans in 34 movies.
Yeah, maybe Eddie King's in charge of this one.
Yeah.
Takes place in that 30-year gap or whatever, 23-year gap.
Yeah.
Where Eddie King's running stuff for his brother. Santos asks why she didn't just send Johnny, and she says she did. And he says he'll kill Sailor if she lets him kill Johnny as well, since apparently he knows too much about Mr. Reindeer. So I'm guessing Santos is a pseudonym for Santa. This guy's Santa Claus. It's creepy, evil Santa Claus. Which I guess there's also a thing with Santa later on. I don't know.
There is, yeah.
What the hell's going on? Mm-hmm. Anyway, she emphatically tells him not to kill Johnny again, and just for fun, we cut back to Sailor and Lula dancing as they drive down the road with Cage saluting the air and making weird hand gestures as he's prone to do. And yelling at Rico.
Rico! No, you didn't.
We see Santos in a red shirt and suspenders calling Mr. Reindeer. See, what did I just say? Mr. Reindeer's just a goofy looking dude with red hair taking a dump. Not kidding. Santos says he's got a couple problems that need to be taken care of. And Mr. Reindeer says, for each problem, drop a silver dollar through my mail slot, which I think is a code for sex or something. Can't tell. Might as well be. Everything else in this movie is sex. So
yeah. Drop a silver dollar through my mail slot.
This guy really reminded me of Dr. Claw, whatever the hell his name was. Dr. Lime.
Dr. Lime.
Some weird crime boss with vague connections to stuff. And he talks weird.
Some new chick watching him poop.
Yeah. I can see him saying never cross the line.
Every time this guy shows up, there's something weird happening around him.
Yeah.
Every time. He's only in like 3 different scenes. And it's just bizarre as fuck every time.
Mm-hmm. Reindeer tells Santos to give him all the particulars and they'll work out payment later, while a topless girl stands guard by the door so this guy can crap on the phone in peace. Then she dances weirdly while he sips tea on the toilet after saying, "Have a beautiful day." Again, so say what you want about David Lynch, but every goddamn scene is memorable.
I mean, it's like, there's no way that this was written to be, he's sitting on the toilet the whole time he's talking to Santos on the phone. It's just like, how do we make this scene more memorable? Put a naked girl in front of the door. Have him be on the toilet taking a shit. Have him sip some tea. Fuck, dude.
Yeah. He's probably drinking that tea that helps you crap. He's been backed up a few days
to loosen him
probiotics.
Got some probiotics in there.
After watching Lula, Sailor, and Johnny all making their own way down to New Orleans, we see Mr. Reindeer make a call to a weird as hell character with a cane, while 2 topless girls argue behind him about some bitch who stole a comb while holding silver trays and a bottle of Pepto-Bismol. Or sure, yeah, I guess some pink, whatever.
What?
It's a striking image.
Being a crime boss is stressful, dude. Sometimes you get tummy aches.
Maybe he's had diarrhea. That's why he was on the toilet.
He's got an upset stomach.
Yeah. They actually do tie together. That makes sense.
This woman, is it Jonna?
Juana, I think, or Juana. I don't know. I don't know that they ever say her name in the film, but it is listed in the credits as Juana.
It's like marijuana, except without the Mary. That's how it's spelled.
I referred to her as crazy bitch for most of the scenes. So.
Yeah. I will say Juana. This woman, Juana, answers the phone, and Reindeer tells her that she's okay to kill the mark in any way she deems fit, and she asks who gets to kill the other one. He says, "That's for me to know." And she says, "Thank you, Mr. Reindeer." I'll just point out
the reindeer.
Point out that there's a character named Mr. Reindeer, who's apparently the head of a major crime organization of some sort.
Mr. Reindeer.
Connected to a guy named Mr. Santos.
I mean, do you think that was in the book? His name was Mr. Reindeer?
Maybe that's why the author loves the movie so much, because it's like he didn't know what the fuck was going to happen, and he wrote the story.
Like a funhouse version of his story that he wrote.
He's like, this is great. I don't even know what's going on.
This is if my book was reimagined by a madman. It's awesome.
It's like, you know that scene in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas when they do like mescaline and go to the circus. It's like that.
That's a perfect description in comparison.
Reindeer makes another call to a shack with a huge overflowing dumpster out back, and we cut away before we can find out who owns this charming home. We see Lula and Sailor arrive in the Big Easy while the guy makes weird noises to a guy dressed like a pimp on vacation who laughs his ass off. Just got to make sure that every moment is weird as hell in a David Lynch film, including establishing shots or any other stuff that would normally be mundane part of the film.
I mean, those are characters that are going to be, featured later on.
Right, but you don't know it. They just look like two guys walking down the street.
Random guys and somebody going, woo, 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 like making weird noises at him while he laughs and chuckles. It's just fucking weird, dude. I'll say, I had a question about this scene that maybe you guys figured out, but so is that Bobby Peru's place or is it Perdita's place? Because Perdita answers the door when Sailor comes over later on, and he knows that that's her place. But when Santos calls, he says, "My boy," or no, when Reindeer calls, Santos and Reindeer, when he calls that house, when the phone is answered, he says, "My boy." So I'm assuming that it was Bobby Peru who answered the phone in that house. But when he comes over later, he's like, "You look even better in person," as if he had never met her before.
Right. And Sailor knows her, like he's been there before.
Yeah,
when he worked for Santos, and he doesn't know Bobby Peru, so that's probably not Bobby's place.
Yeah, but maybe he answers the phone when the phone rings there.
Maybe he's just hanging out there.
Yeah, I always
maybe Bobby's been sent down there to take over. Who knows?
Yeah, you know what? But I got the feeling that Bobby was sent down there to handle Nick. So maybe he linked up. He was linked up. He was linked up with her by Mr. Reindeer. Yeah, and that's why he said.
That's
and
what
like,
he has the silver dollar that he sets on his forehead.
He has the silver dollar, but he also, like, when they introduce him the first time, they're like, Bobby's the most exciting thing that's come through town since some like tornado or some shit. And so he had only been there for a couple of days. Yeah. But when Reindeer calls that house, presumably Bobby answers the phone.
This could be another one of his time skippy things, or he had sent. I don't. Yeah, that's a good point.
Maybe it's a future shot that he edited backwards.
Why the fuck would he call? Anyways, whatever. Never mind. We're getting ahead of ourselves. We're trying to make sense of a lunatic's screenplay that was rewritten. As they went along. Because why would he assume that they're going to Big Tuna, or they would stop through Big Tuna ahead of time?
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe because he assumed that Sailor would try and like connect with Perdita to find out if there was a hit out on him, because he couldn't escape that no matter where he goes.
Right.
Which is my biggest question of this entire movie is like, wouldn't say like Santos is still around after Sailor gets out, so wouldn't you just kill him again? Like try and kill him? Like he still has a hit out on him.
Yeah.
Anyways,
well, we see Sailor and Lula passionately plowing, then a match striking, then them in bed where Lula says Sailor takes her over the rainbow, which is another Wizard of Oz reference in case you're keeping track. She says Sailor is super aware of what goes on with her while they're making love, and he has the sweetest cock that seems to talk to her while it's inside of her. Based on my fantasies, I'm guessing it's yelling, "Are you ready? Ready for the big ride, baby?" He says they should go out in the crazy world of New Orleans and get a fried banana sandwich, which is another Elvis reference, in case you're also keeping track of that. At a jazz club, a sleazy drunk looking like an Alice in Wonderland character stares at Sailor before making a weird head-shaking gesture and a noise that I can only describe as a mentally handicapped duck trying to get someone's attention. Then he says, and I quote, "Pigeons spread diseases and mess up the place." You've seen that. In a Munchkin voice.
"Pigeons spread diseases and mess up the place." You've seen that.
What the hell, man? Then he makes the duck noise at the band again, and this concludes his entire appearance in the film. This is the most bizarre part of the film for me.
It's like we've said this about the Coen brothers before, where they make every single character memorable. But in this movie, it's like that guy was on screen for 20 seconds and like you will never forget that guy.
I know I can't tell you exactly what I was expecting to see in this film, but I can definitely say for certain it wasn't the Mentat Thufir Hawat from Dune spouting unintelligible gibberish with a dog's toy crammed down his throat.
There's so many like we talked about it offline, but there's so many staple weird, fugly, strange background character actors that David Lynch just puts into everything that show up and make weird noises or just like the crazy voodoo lady. Like she's in everything that David Lynch does, and she's always weird as hell every time she shows up. He has his little troop of weirdos.
Yeah.
Just imagine him hanging out with all the time.
In another life, he'd have been like a freak show carnival guy.
That's what David Lynch movies are. It's like a moving cinema freak show.
We see Johnny arriving in the big NO. Then we cut to Marietta on the phone with Santos. She says she's having second thoughts about rubbing out Sailor, and he says it's too late to stop it. Then he says, "I'm in a killing mood." Santos says he saw Johnny on Bourbon Street, hangs up the phone, and laughs as he calls her a crazy fucking bitch.
Which again, he had like Johnny hadn't made his way to New Orleans yet, so it's like, was he just fucking with her? Did that actually happen? Did he actually see him on Bourbon Street, or was he just like trying to mess with her because she wants him to not kill him?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe David Lynch doesn't want us to know. Who knows?
Maybe David Lynch didn't know.
He's this guy to always keep them guessing.
Didn't know in the edit.
Philosophy.
Wait, did I put that scene in yet? Was this one in there? Nah, fuck it. Who cares?
Who cares? You guys like Rammstein?
That's all that was playing while they were editing. That's why this movie is so confusing. They couldn't think straight. You have a penis.
25 years, like people are going to be watching this movie on their fucking phones. Get real.
It's such a sadness that you think you've seen a film on your fucking telephone. Get real.
I love that so much. Look up David Lynch iPhone commercial if you don't know what
I
I'm
always
talking
think
about.
of the coverage one. I don't know if you've seen that one where like some like assistant director keeps asking him like, can we speed this up so we can get coverage? And he's just like, the fuck are you talking about? I don't need coverage. We're just focusing in on this shot. What the fuck is your problem? I'm going to fire you if you don't stop talking to me about coverage.
Very good, you guys.
You gonna try to do a close up on Candy still? Or do you need it? If you want to cut the time down,
What is this with everybody?
No.
What is it? Really? Why? I'm serious. Fucking A, man. It drives me nuts. Who gives a fucking shit how long a scene is?
Like, sorry, that's how every other movie's made. Sorry, Mr. Lynch.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to make a competent film. I'm sorry. I don't know what you're doing.
Oh man, I would love to see him sit down at a round table with like Spielberg and a bunch of other competent directors. Ron
Fuck you,
Howard.
mean the toilet doesn't work?
How come you didn't put a crazy Munchkin voiced guy in Munich? I would have done that.
How come E.T. never quacked at the kids?
I had to give it Oscar Schindler a fake hand. Make him memorable.
Well, that guy's like shooting down on those people. I would have had one of them blow off an arm and then a dog just pick it up and walk away with it. Would have been funny. David, I wasn't going for funny in that movie.
Oh, fuck.
I mean, he did take a cue from Lynch in Saving Private Ryan when he picks up the arm.
Yeah.
Like looking for his arm on the beach.
He's looking for his arm, yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go.
It's got to be around here somewhere. They could sew that on.
Is it the horrors of war or a hilarious little added joke?
Dark joke, yeah. Then Marietta proves that she is a crazy fucking bitch. I mean, boy, does she ever. She stares into a mirror for a minute, then uses some lipstick to simulate slitting her wrists. We momentarily cut away from that to see a dinner party hosted by Mr. Reindeer and Happy Gilmore's grandma. It was weird. I haven't seen her in anything else ever except for this scene.
Yeah.
She's got like one line and it's super fucking memorable, just like everything else.
Yeah, Miss Gilmore tells some girls that they're not just a pretty face with a fucking smile. You're here to make Mr. Reindeer happy and show him a good time. Imagine auditioning for that role. I need an old lady to say this.
I want somebody who's in her 70s.
I've been a screen actor for 6 decades. Want me to say what? Then we see that pimp on vacation, a.k.a. Reggie, show up with one of the silver dollar Santos drop for the hit, and behind him we see the woman with the cane that we previously saw in silhouette.
Thank you, Mr. Reindeer.
Mr. Reindeer gives the guy an envelope that says he's to show the mark before killing him, and he takes off with Juana, and for some reason, that guy who kept saying, "Oh, Warriors, come out to play, yay!" in the Warriors.
I've seen that guy in like 5 movies ever, and he'll always be that guy. Clicking the beer bottles together. Warriors!
We cut away from Mr. Reindeer's charming topless fire eater's dinner party before Happy Gilmore's grandma can start the orgy or whatever was about to happen there to a quick shot of a crystal ball again for some reason. Then we see some crazy dissonant music performed in a jazz club by a human version of the sexy gremlin from Gremlins 2.
It's the same outfit, the same makeup, the same wig. It looks exactly the same as the sexy gremlin.
That's why I was like, man, she looks familiar. That's why she was familiar with me. You're 100% right on that one.
I love that movie.
Exactly the same. Yeah, I mean,
those creepy puppets.
It's very, I feel like unfairly treated.
Oh God, yeah.
Everybody hates that movie for some reason.
I haven't seen it. I was
it.
quoting David Lynch. I'm David Lynch. I love that film.
Lynch. I love that movie.
I think that movie.
I haven't
came
seen the
after
second
this,
one. I've
so
seen
it
the
might have
first
been
one.
Joe Dante.
Oh, maybe, yeah,
maybe
referencing Wild at Heart. That music is just so like it's very short, that little clip, but it's so just off-putting and like dissonant and uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I feel for you, baby, like a bomb.
Ugh. And it's sung by a human gremlin, so
I do like the way they use his music in this movie.
Yeah, they did a good job with the music in this.
That's one of his things. He's a real believer in just kind of dropping music in to see how it fits. Like he has talked about it before, where he'll just like drop in like 20 different songs and watch the scene over and over and over again with different types of music and see how it hits. So it's kind of one of his major things throughout his films.
That's neat. We see Sailor and Lula chatting in a nearby booth where Sailor tells a story complete with flashbacks to him groping some chick walking up some stairs. And he says he had a boner with a capital O.
That's what your girlfriend wants to hear.
Like the shape of the penis? Is that what they
I don't know. O-face. Apparently she didn't want to hear it. Then he says that he saw her lying in a room full of assault weapons and Spank House magazines. So I slid my hands between her legs again and she closed her thighs on it.
There's
Then
literally like a machine gun on the bed for some reason. Like porno magazines. Just because, gotta make it weird.
Then he says that she looked back at him and said,
I won't suck you. Don't ask me to suck you.
And Lula says she don't know what she missed. He goes on to say that she spread her legs open real wide and said, take a bite of peach. And as we all know, he can eat a peach for hours. I guess that story made Lula flutter panties because she says, baby, you better run me back to the hotel. You got me hotter than Georgia asphalt. He obliges, but tells her to go easy on him since they've got a lot of driving to do the next day. I want to blow out the crankshaft.
I swear it's just like a bunch of little scenes all cobbled together to make one big movie. Just all these weird little moments, which like Tarantino does this too.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Tarantino must have like kind of come up with this style from watching David Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
Pulp Fiction
I
reminds
think
me a lot of
particularly
Lynch
the
films.
editing scenes out of order. You know,
Yes.
because doesn't Tarantino do that too?
Like Jackie Brown, he did that a bunch too, where he kind of like jumped all around. And yeah, I definitely see the Lynch, whatchamacallit, inspiration.
Lynchian.
Yeah.
Act 2. Let's get some motivation up in this thing.
We see a fun little montage of Sailor and Lula tearing into each other, set to some death metal and Elvis songs, complete with red, yellow, blue, and green color washes, and then shots of the road. So I guess we're supposed to assume that this is them like on their way to Texas from New Orleans, or no?
They were in New Orleans.
Yeah, because they got to New Orleans.
Yeah, they were in New Orleans, so now they're on their way to Texas. So, right?
To Tejas.
Because we see Johnny say that they left and that they checked out of the hotel, but it was like that morning. But then we see these, I don't know, this little montage of sex.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was all supposed to be one night of sex or because it's actually like pieces that we've actually seen already. But now they have like color washes over them and stuff. I don't know. Lula asks Sailor, wouldn't it be nice if we stayed in love forever? And he says from here on out, he's not doing anything without a good reason. Then he says there's more than enough bad things out there. And we cut to Lula's mom smearing lipstick on her face, set to a horror sting. Why not?
Which this presumably happened days ago, or it's not. It concurrently with when she was like slitting her wrists with the lipstick.
Yes,
but whenever that took place, which was after a phone call with
Johnny,
Johnny,
right? Or no, Santos.
Yeah, because it was like he was saying he was going to kill Johnny again, so she flips out. I don't remember.
Lula says there's something she never told him and launches into the single greatest montage ever put to film, starring the one and only Crispin Glover, who is absolutely brilliant in this little thing. It's the dance. She tells him a story with a lesson about bad ideas, which I don't really get where that's like. She's like telling a story to like almost like allude to something later on, but I don't know if it really, if this has anything to do with anything else.
Just film it. I'll put it in the movie somewhere.
Yeah. I don't think that this was in the book either, by the way. This is just straight out of David Lynch's head. We see Crispin, a.k.a. Cousin Dell, dressed as Santa Claus being dropped off by a police car. She says they used to call him Jingle Dell since he loved Christmas so much. Then we cut to him screaming at the top of his lungs in a filthy Santa suit because his mom told him it was summertime. The scream is so good. I feel like this is just, you know, what Crispin Glover's like in everyday ordinary life. She says Dell thought the spirit of Christmas was being destroyed by aliens wearing black rubber gloves. And the aliens would get Dell to do all kinds of things. We cut to Dell on the floor in his underwear, crying and shaking while poking a black glove with a stick that he has inside like a little like box he made with measuring tapes. She says her aunt told Dell that the alien wearing black gloves was him and him alone. So it was in his head, of course. Sailor says it sounds like Dell was just a little more than confused. Then we cut back to Dell making hundreds of sandwiches in the middle of the night. When his mom confronts him with a flashlight, Dell screams,
I'm making my lunch!
And she says her aunt found cockroaches in Dell's underwear, and one time she caught Dell putting a big cockroach directly on his anus. We cut to Dell outside in a suit, just loving the feeling of cockroaches crawling around in his underwear. Just kind of like doing a little... It's like Talking Heads is playing in the background.
Yeah.
Call back to the best of times.
Best of times.
I don't like this. You kids need guidance. She says it's not funny now, though, since Dell disappeared and no one has seen him since. Which
Where's
I
the
gotta
follow-up
hope
movie
that
with
guy,
him?
that guy is still out there and still living the dream.
Yeah,
fighting those aliens with black gloves.
I just imagine him and Buscemi's character from Con Air met up, became best of friends.
The best of friends
can't be cured. That could be it.
You got the whole world in your hands. And he cures Dell.
We're the best of friends.
It's called the best of friends.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh god, that'd be awesome.
Just see them singing the whole world in our hands. Sailor says it's too bad he couldn't visit the old Wizard of Oz and get some good advice. It's a reference 900 to Wizard of Oz. That's how he like hears that story and he's like, I wish he could have gone to see the Wizard of Oz. Smashing sandwiches, dressed in a filthy Santa suit, poking a black glove, putting a cockroach on his ass. I wish he could have seen the Wizard of Oz. That would have cured him right up. Whatever the
It's
fuck
just like
that
that-
incredible little story has to do with the rest of this movie, I cannot answer, but God bless David Lynch for making that happen.
Oh, God, that was so good.
You think Crispin Glover thought he was going to have a more substantial role? Did they film other things and then only cut those together?
I was in Back to the Future. Then you're going to put a cockroach on your anus. Poke that black glove. Smash some sandwiches. Put on this Santa suit. What is that, like his hair too? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if they actually
I didn't
shaved
even
his head.
recognize
It's
that
like,
was him at first, you know,
Me
until
either.
until the part where he's cooking the sandwich or cutting the sandwiches. I was like, holy fuck.
that's Crispin Glover. He was in the best of times.
These are not the best of times for him.
We follow up that amazing moment with Johnny watching some hyenas tearing a carcass apart on TV while barking at it because, of course, he does.
I think they're wild dogs.
I thought they were hyenas. It looked like jackals or something, just tearing
Yeah,
apart
I
some
mean, wild
carcass.
dogs kind of have that mottled thing.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. But either way.
Whatever.
He barks at it. Instead of barking at Nicolas Cage.
Just barking at it.
Barks
yeah.
at the TV.
Though Nicolas Cage does get barked at later on. Third time that has happened in a movie. He gets a phone call from Marietta, who has completely covered her face in lipstick, which is revealed to us with a super loud and unsettling horror sting.
Johnny.
Yeah, it's like a jump scare.
Yeah.
Which I think was kind of just put in to make it funny. I don't know. He asks her what's wrong, and she says she's turned herself into the Red Hulk in drag.
People won't get that until Captain America 4 comes out or whatever that has the Red Hulk in it.
Yeah, that's right.
Come back in a couple years, you'll get that joke.
Yeah, you'll get that joke in a few years. She tells him she's done something real bad, but she doesn't want to tell him over the phone, so she's headed to New Orleans to meet up with him. He says the kids have already left town, so he needs to stay on their trail, but she insists that they go after them together, and he reluctantly agrees while she cries and makes crazy noises while covered in red lipstick and pukes in the toilet. I will point out that she was nominated for an Oscar for this performance.
She sold it.
Really?
Like, it's crazy.
She's insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen Diane Ladd in other things, and she is not like this normally. Things, so I guess she acted really well. Also, we linger on her shoes for a minute, which are curled up like the Wicked Witch from The Wizard of Oz. Just another one. It's kind of like a weird, like it just pans down to her legs, and you're like, what the hell am I supposed to be looking at? And her shoes are curled up. So,
Do you get it?
You get it yet? Wizard of Oz, goddammit. We cut to a guy snapping along to a song on an old radio while he ogles Lula, who dances sexily at him as Sailor puts gas in their convertible. Sailor says they have less than $100 left, and she offers to drive so he can get some rest. Then she blows a kiss to the snapping guy, and they drive off. just can't have a single moment go by without something weird happening.
Yeah.
Lula flips stations on the radio and hears a woman talking about having open heart surgery, another woman who shot her 3 children in the head, a report about a guy having sex with a corpse, and 500 turtles being released into the Ganges to reduce population, but now they plan to release crocodiles to eat floating bodies. She freaks out and says that the world's like the Night of the Living Dead, and pulls the car off to the side of the road, which wakes up Sailor. She screams for him to get her some music on the radio just this instant. And he finds some death metal, which makes him scream, just wall to wall insanity.
I love this scene.
Yeah, me too. And then he does like karate in the dirt.
Yeah.
The two of them dance while screaming at the top of their lungs in an open field somewhere in Texas. Then we see them mouth "I love you" to each other and stare passionately into each other's eyes.
I love it because it's like he's saying, you know, this movie's weird and shit, but like listen to the actual news and how all the weird shit that happens in our own reality, and you think these characters are crazy for wanting to escape it with thrash metal or whatever the heck, and we're supposed to think like, yeah, these guys are nuts, but then it's like, why? They just want to escape from how horrible everything actually is in real life. So that's why I love that it was like, I don't know. I feel like it's one of those moments where this movie actually tells you something. Like it should. Yeah, it feels like it has a point to the absurdity of it.
I do think that they're, you know, these two characters who are madly in love are just trying to make their way through this insanity, which is kind of what we're all trying to do, you know, get through this crazy fucking world.
Yeah.
Make it through alive, figure out our way. We see Marietta and Johnny at a fancy French restaurant in New Orleans, and rather than tell him she accidentally put a hit out on him, as well as for Sailor, she tries to get him to hit the road that night. He presses her about what's wrong and asks if Santos is involved, but she says, hell no, and that she'd never do that without asking him. He says this is all Uncle Pooch's fault. Remember Uncle Pooch? Since he apparently introduced Marietta and her dead husband to Santos in the first place. She says that's all ancient history, and they need to think about their future now. They kind of have like a rekindling moment where they, you know, tell each other that they love each other, and they happy cry for a second, and then they head upstairs to leave town. Then, for some reason, we cut to an albino woman walking through the shadows while doing jazz hands. Just because. Why not? Why not?
Yeah. Doing a crab walk.
Yeah. Lynch was like, it's been too normal.
Yeah. We went 30 seconds without something strange happening. On the road, Sailor and Lula listen to Wicked Game by Chris Isaak, which this apparently was the first time that it ever made an appearance in a film, by the way. That's
the first of many times.
Music video, I think, has cuts to Wild at Heart, because I think it was supposed to go along with this film.
Dang.
And anyways, during this, Sailor confesses that he used to work for Santos as a driver. He says he knew her dad and thought he was a good old guy. But just before Sailor quit working for Santos, he happened to be at Lula's house, and he witnessed the fire that killed her father. But he has no idea how it happened, so apparently he's kind of confused as to why Marietta wants him dead. But, you know, all becomes clear. She's understandably upset that he's kept this secret from her, and he's worried she might think that he's keeping other things from her as well. She sees a vision of the Wicked Witch / her mom flying next to them on the road, and she says, it's just shocking sometimes when things aren't the way you thought they were. It's like he didn't just bump into her one day and become interested in her. He had seen her before. Which would be pretty messed up to find out, I think.
Yeah.
And kind of from that moment on, their relationship kind of takes a turn a little bit until the very end when they rekindle that love again. But I feel like this is kind of the beginning of the end of their super romantic love that we've seen throughout the film. We cut to Marietta and Johnny at her hotel room, where she says she's going to pack and to meet her downstairs in the lobby. He heads to his room, which is just down the hall, and is immediately grabbed and knocked out by a couple guys. I guess she must have booked in his hotel.
Yeah,
afterwards.
She said she was coming to see him.
Yeah. Well, why wouldn't she? Well, so she flies to New Orleans. Why does she even have a room of her own? Why didn't she just stay with Johnny? Why does she even get a room if she wanted to leave that night? It's back listening to Wicked Game. Sailor and Lula happen upon a car accident in the desert. The car is flipped with multiple people dead, but there's one girl alive wandering around looking for her purse while bleeding profusely from the head. She keeps repeating, "It was in my pocket," over and over, while Sailor and Lula try to grab her so that they can get her some help. She itches at a gaping wound on her head and says, "I got this damn sticky stuff in my hair." Then collapses and screams, "Where's my hairbrush?" and dies. I mean, like, I don't like this whole scene is just so unsettling and like uncomfortable. There's a couple scenes like that in this act. They're just like, what the fuck? Like, we were having fun. What happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's supposed to be like you said that in the previous scene that Lula and Sailor's relationship kind of takes a turn.
Yeah.
A little darker, a little more realistic. It's like they're leaving this fantasy land that she's lived in or that they've both been living in and getting hit with some of the harsh realities of the world, I guess.
Yeah.
And so are we as watching.
Yeah. This also wasn't in the book. This was something that David Lynch added. So he added this
more
for
car
a
crashes.
reason.
I love car crashes.
Yeah. I'm not really sure exactly what the point is here, but I think it is supposed to like everything just comes crashing down to reality again. They've been kind of in this fantasy romantic dream so far. Lula is a wreck, and Sailor says they need to leave so that they're not around when the cops show up, since he'll surely be busted for breaking his parole. They hop in the car and leave the grisly scene behind while Lula sobs, and Wicked Game continues to play. So. Good song. Back at the hotel, Marietta is crying about Johnny not meeting her in the lobby to a weird manager guy on crutches with a British accent. He suggests that they
call a local law enforcement officer.
And she pleads with him not to. So, like I said, anytime just a random character has one or two lines, David Lynch is just like, how do we make this weirder?
It's one of the things I liked about this is like it's sometimes it is weird, like it's for the sake of weird, but like in real life, you know, the manager of a hotel having a British accent with crutches is not that weird. Like it would be out of place to see that, but in a film it is because you expect it to mean something. That everything that's on screen generally has some kind of meaning, and when it doesn't, it's like this. It's surrealism that's actually adding verisimilitude to it in a weird way. But sometimes it's surreal for the sake of being surreal. It actually is weird. But like in this instance, it's like, all right, they got an 80-year-old janitor. What's weird about that? Okay, the guy's on crutches. It's not really that weird. People get crutches all the time, you know?
Yeah. But and the bellhop is like 100 years old.
Right.
Like these three old men. I love this little moment. It's another thing where it's like it could have just been weird. Normal. Yeah,
in a film form, but
played it straight.
In real life it would be kind of weird, but you know, not that odd. You wouldn't really think anything of it. But in a film, it seems completely bizarre. But why? You know, when you really think about it, aren't we trying to go for realism in movies? It's like he's trying to say like movies aren't realistic. So what the fuck is the point of trying to make everything seem super realistic?
Yeah, true.
Also, I'll just point out that old vacuum. Did you guys ever use one of those? I used one of those growing up, and I was like, I haven't seen one of those vacuums in 30 years.
Yeah, we had one of those too. We'd always take it to get repaired instead of buying something new.
It was a piece of crap. Yeah,
because you could repair it, but it seemed like it was always breaking down.
Yeah. Anyways, then some some old 90-year-old man shows up and gives her a note that he must have overlooked from Johnny, which says Johnny went fishing with a friend and maybe buffalo hunting too. Meanwhile, some dude with a cane watches on, and the 90-year-old guy just backs out of the scene real slow and weird. She says what we're all thinking.
Buffalo hunting? I've gone buffalo hunting? What the fuck does that mean? Buffalo hunting.
What the fuck does that mean? Then she theorizes that Johnny was afraid, so
the fucker split!
I love how she says that.
Yeah.
Suddenly, Santos shows up and shoos away the trio of old men while Marietta says,
Santos!
Again, just so over the top. My favorite part of that is when Santos shows up, he's like, you better all clear out. And then the one guy who didn't say anything the whole scene was like, me too? It's just amazing. Yeah. There's so many of these little moments in this movie that are just fucking not necessary, but brilliant. Just, I don't know. I love it. She asks Santos what he did to Johnny, and he tells her to cut out this crybaby stuff since she's his girl now. She again asks if he did anything to Johnny, and he says he didn't do anything to Johnny Farragut, but he got word that the kids are moving through Texas, so they need to leave. She says Santos is the only one who has always come through for her. Then we cut to that girl with the cane and walking boot, Juana, whatever, from earlier, screaming into the camera while going, because we went 5 seconds without something utterly insane happening. It's revealed she's screaming into Johnny's face, who is tied up with that pimp dude and the bad guy from the Warriors behind him. Not to play. I don't even think he has a line. Maybe he says like one thing. She says, I smell your shit now, Johnny. While looking absolutely fucking crazy. Just, I don't know how that woman always manages to be so crazy looking and everything. She's like so crazy that it's annoying in Twin Peaks. In this one, she's crazy in a kind of absolutely terrifying way, which works. It works.
Yep.
She kisses the pimp guy and says, fuck me, over and over, while Johnny looks on baffled as the rest of us.
Give us one more kiss, Reggie. Oh, fuck me. Oh, fuck me.
Which I think, like, I'm not really sure if it was intentional, but this, like, mirrors the whole Peru thing later on. And I'm not really sure what we're supposed to get from that. Maybe he learned that trick from her. Like, just say, fuck me over and over and over again. Yeah. Eventually they will. So. Pimp guy seems to be in some sort of horny drug daze and moans weirdly at Johnny like a zombie for a minute. While creepy lady says, we hunt buffalo now. Can't wait no more. Remember that number, 10. While pimp guy says, I can't stop her, Johnny, but I'm going to be standing right behind you with this big old gun here.
I just wish they had Bob Marley playing in the background. Buffalo hunter.
They have like monsters having a crazy conversation in the background.
Yeah. Like a Schumacher film back there.
Joanna looks more and more crazy and seems to be getting hotter than Georgia Asphalt herself. Reggie shows Johnny his sweet-ass Hydra ring, which apparently is also Santos' symbol, or Mr. Reindeer. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know what that's supposed to be.
It's
It's
like
like
he says Santos, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Well, like, so I think
specter
Johnny
ring from-
says Santos, so he's like, oh,
Johnny
that's
does, yeah.
It looks like the Hydra ring, right?
It does.
It's like the Spectre rings from Bond.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
or
the
Spectre,
ring,
yeah.
Which I guess they're kind of similar.
They're
anyway.
like this. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're similar.
He realizes Marietta is the one who is responsible for all of this insanity, and he's heartbroken. Crazy lady points at him and then walks slowly away, and the monsters continue to have a conversation in the background for some reason.
I go out now.
She starts counting to 10 while getting super horny for some reason and masturbating just right there. This is like that. It's like some sort of voodoo, like murder sex thing. It's just really off-putting. When she gets to 10, she says, "Fuck me now, Reggie." And Reggie shoots Johnny in the head. Thankfully, we were spared even more of that insanity because, quick fact, originally after Johnny is killed by Joanna and her henchmen, there was a sex scene involving Joanna and Reggie, and test audiences found the scene to be too disturbing, and 50% of the audience walked out of the screening.
Thank God.
God damn, dude.
Like, that's the point at which you walk out. That's crazy.
After everything.
Imagine how disturbing that was.
I was on board with the sandwiches thing, but this was too far.
I'm making my lunch.
We cut to a sign that says Big Tuna, Texas, which, as I said earlier, seems to be the only weirdly named location that is actually made up in this film. But I'm pretty positive that that's the hometown of Jim Halpert. Big Tuna.
I wonder if that's where that came from.
Maybe. See Andy Bernard being a big Wild at Heart fan. Lula asks why the hell Sailor wanted to go to Big Tuna, and he says, "I know it ain't exactly the Emerald City." Wizard of Oz thing. Then she says it's way off the road to California, and again asks why he wanted to come. And then they pass a sign that just says "fuck you," spray painted on it.
It was from that kid from Raising Arizona. Grew up and moved to Big Tuna.
He's regressed from fart to real profanity.
Fuck you. Then we see Sailor minus Lula pull up to that shack with the big full dumpster behind it. It's the only. It's like what else am I going to call out about this shitty shack in the middle of nowhere besides the big dumpster behind it that's just overflowing?
Yeah.
That's the same one that we saw Rudolph the red-haired reindeer call earlier. Oh, and it's revealed to us with the same crazy over-the-top stinger horror sound that we saw when Marietta was covered in lipstick. For some reason. Don't know why. David Lynch seems to really like those really loud horror stingers that just come out of nowhere that don't actually seem to be necessary for the scene that they're happening in. Does that a lot in Lost Highway. When he knocks on the door, he's met by a young, hot version of that chick with a cane and walking boot who got all damp over killing Johnny. This is her daughter, I guess, because we see a picture later on that reveals that. The girl recognizes Sailor, and he asks her if there's a contract out on his life by either Santos or Marietta. She seems upset that Sailor is with Lula, and then calls him one big stupid asshole. She reveals what we've all kind of figured out at this point, that Marietta had Santos kill her husband / Lula's dad. But he was there when it happened, so he's kind of involved in this too. We flash back to that awkward scene of Marietta trying to fuck Sailor in the bathroom stall, where he remembers her saying, "One night you got too close to a fire and you're gonna burn." So that's how we kind of realize he was there. We see, and that's why she wants him dead, is because she thinks that he saw that she was involved somehow, or I don't know. I don't know what she thinks that he saw, because he was in the car outside. We see Santos pouring kerosene on Lula's dad, while this girl, whose name is apparently Perdita, according to IMDb, even though I don't think they ever say her name.
Bobby says it, I think.
Does he? Okay.
When they're driving to the feed store.
She was apparently there with Santos while that was happening. I don't know why. We see Marietta make out with Santos as he leaves out a window, and she cackles like the Wicked Witch of the West, which is the same laugh that Lula heard 800 scenes ago. In that hotel where Sailor had his radio on his feet for some reason. Just because, why not? Yeah. That's how I listen to the radio. I don't know about you guys.
It makes you remember the scene.
It does. Like I said, I just feel like he looks at a scene and he's like, well, this isn't memorable enough. How can we make it more memorable? Put the fucking radio on his feet. Sailor says he and Perdita had a deal that if either of them had a contract out on the other one would tip them off. But she says she hasn't heard anything, which is clearly a lie. I think she's like heartbroken over Sailor, like she fell in love with him and then he left her behind. I think that's what we're supposed to get out of this.
Yeah.
Sailor takes off while Perdita prepares for a fun day hanging out wearing a cocktail dress in a dilapidated shack next to a dumpster in the blistering Texas heat. Next, we cut to some puke on the floor with flies all over it. Lovely. Turns out Lula puked all over the floor of their shitty hotel room, and Sailor only notices it after asking, "What's that smell?" And he checks his boot. Mm-hmm. She asks if they can stay and rest for a few days since the driving seems to be upsetting her stomach. By the way, neither of them decide to clean up this bar for days. So maybe Marietta was right to think that her daughter maybe wasn't as responsible enough to take care of herself. Just leave it there. I didn't make it to the bathroom.
Yeah, you animal.
It's the cleaning staff's job. They clearly have at this motel.
Yeah. She says she hopes seeing that girl die didn't jinx them. Remember that scene 20 batshit insane things ago? He looks off in the distance for a second, and then we flash to Marietta the witch in the darkness. Then Sailor pulls a candy necklace out of his pocket. He says he got it for her, and it has 40 different flavors. And she says she's going to save this, but if she ever does eat it, she'll be thinking of him.
Romantic.
Puke on the floor, Wicked Witch of the West, candy necklace. We cut to the courtyard of this motel/trailer park shithole awful place where we see Sailor and Lula hanging out with that guy from every other 90s movie with crazy eyes. Remember that guy? He's in everything. He's reading a newspaper article about the accident that happened the other night, and he says someone named Robert Brenton was behind the wheel. And then some other random guy yells, "Robert Brenton, that dumb fuck, that stupid shit, that fucking Bob was so fucking dumb he deserved to die, that asshole."
That feels like real small town.
Yeah.
Banter though.
Fucking A.
Everybody
dude.
knows everybody, and
Yeah.
fucking Bobby.
Robert Brenton. While some guy in a Confederate flag hat just laughs in the
Again,
laughs at this
real
dude.
small town.
Crazy Eyes asks this lunatic why there are bright lights on in one of the other rooms, and he says they're making a porno. Then he just kind of leaves and never shows up again.
Well, he says they're making a porno Texas style.
Yeah, Texas style.
Means.
You want to join them?
What does that mean?
Steers and
Fat
queers.
chicks. That's what it means.
Huh?
Fat chicks is what it means.
Oh, fat chicks. Okay.
I guess.
Yeah.
Everything's bigger in Texas.
I'm guessing the words "no normal moments" were written on every script page.
Especially when you got to deliver exposition, I guess.
Yeah.
Definitely have to make it confusing.
Yeah.
Weird.
Texas style.
Texas style.
Confederate flag hat guy says you have to have a sense of humor to survive Big Tuna. And a guy in a cowboy shirt brings over some weirdo in a wife beater. Cowboy shirt says wife beater's name is Bose Spool, or Bose Spool, and he's a rocket scientist.
It's that sense of humor.
He says they call him Double Lot Spool, and this guy stares at Sailor and Lula before saying, and I quote, "My dog barks some. Mentally, you picture my dog, but I have not told you the type of dog I have. Perhaps you might even picture Toto from The Wizard of Oz, but I can tell you my dog is always with me." Then he barks at them. Again, what is with characters barking at Nicolas Cage? Fucking times is this going to happen throughout all of the films that we watch?
Yeah.
Then a guy does a little fire in his hand magic trick while three fat topless chicks start dancing somewhere in the distance while one of them eats a banana and a couple other guys walk through staring at them. Not staring at Lula and Sailor, that is.
Yeah.
They never even look at the fat naked girls. What the fuck is happening? Then suddenly Willem Dafoe just walks out of the shadows smoking a cigarette. And boy, let me tell you, this guy has the worst case of gingivitis I've ever seen.
His teeth are receding too.
He sports a pencil-thin mustache, slicked back hair, and a bolo tie, and gums that would make Bubba from Forrest Gump I don't know, envious. I don't know. Got big gums. All I'm saying. He introduces himself to Lula and Sailor as Bobby Peru, like the country. I know what you're thinking. We're 78 minutes into this thing and Willem Dafoe is just now showing up. Well, I promise you, he definitely makes up for lost time.
Amen to that.
Lula asks Bobby if he's from Texas, and he says, "I'm from all over." And Sailor notices Bobby was in the Marines thanks to a tattoo on his hand. Confederate flag hat guy says Bobby was at Chow Bang. And when Lula asks what Chow Bang was, he asks her how old she is and gives her a big old gum-filled smile. Since he knows that she's too young to remember any battles from Vietnam. I don't even know if this is a real thing, a real battle that happened. I don't know. I never looked it up.
I don't. Yeah.
Crazy Eyes says lots of people died at Chow Bang, and Bobby glares at him and asks him what he would know about it since he was in the Navy and never went ashore. Confederate flag hat guy tries to calm down the situation and says, "Come on, Bobby, have yourself another glass of Jack." And Bobby says,
"Don't mind if I fucking do."
A glass of Jack.
Glass of Jack, yeah.
A glass. At least 8 ounces of Jack.
Yeah. Healthy pour. Then he says, "Speaking of Jack, one-eyed Jack's yearning to go a-peeping in a seafood store." Then he leaves, and Lula says she's not feeling good, so she wants to go back to the room. And I'm sure it has nothing to do with this gaggle of absolute fucking maniacs that they're hanging out with. They say goodnight and head off to bed while those two guys who were staring at them a minute ago continue to stare at them as they head to the room. I guess because they were like making the porno. Why? Why does anything happen? Does any of that happen? To introduce Bobby Peru and that they're in this really uncomfortable place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know about you guys, but I would have packed my shit and left immediately after that.
Yeah.
Hang out with those guys for 5 minutes. Lula asks what all that was about, and Sailor makes sure that the window is locked. When he slams the window shut, Lula has a flashback to being raped at 13 and Uncle Pooch zipping up his pants. Thanks, movie. Thanks. Sailor complains about that barf smell that isn't going away. You know, they make these things called towels. You could just easily clean that up. Then we cut to Lula getting an abortion as a kid, which is presented to us by looking at her face through one of those big magnifying things in a doctor's office. And then the doctor just tossing the abortion into the trash can. Oh, my God. I just think it could have been worse. She could have been handed a lollipop after that.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Then she tells Sailor that she's pretty sure she's pregnant, which she does by writing on a piece of paper and handing it to him since she can't say it out loud. She might be weirder than her mom in a lot of ways. She just hasn't grown into those eccentricities yet. See her like rubbing lipstick on her face in the next scene. Sailor takes this news pretty well. He lights up and smokes 2 cigarettes at once. Which I thought he was lighting one for her and one for him, but no, he just smokes 2 cigarettes at once. And he says, "It's okay by me, Peanut." And she says, "Nothing personal, but I ain't so sure it's okay by me." She says she's just uncomfortable about how things have been going since it seems they broke down along the yellow brick road. Wizard of Oz. More Wizard of Oz. He promises he won't let things get any worse, which couldn't be further from the truth.
Act 3. It's about time to wrap this thing up.
The next day, we see Sailor at a garage changing the oil in their convertible, while Lula makes sure their kid has some incurable birth defects by smoking nonstop in their room while continuing to just ignore the puke on the floor.
They just keep cutting back to the puke. Like, dude.
I don't know.
So you're not unsettled enough.
Yeah, I guess.
I think it is to show that they're not really set for the real world. Like, neither of them can just clean up that.
Yeah. It makes me wonder how old Sailor's supposed to be.
Yeah. I figured early 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got to be a little bit older than her, though. I would imagine.
It seems like he's a little 20, more experienced.
Because she's 20, 21, right?
I assumed she was like 20 and he was like 20,
she says
29
she's 20
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, he just spent 2 years in prison.
Yeah.
Didn't have a great life before that. So,
yeah, true.
All
So
he
she was
cares about
supposed
is
to be
rocking.
6 or 18 in that first scene, I guess.
Bobby Peru knocks on the door, and Lula answers in a see-through nightie, a G-string, and high heels. I don't know about you guys, but that's how I lounge around when I'm at home.
I mean,
the Amazon
didn't have air conditioning.
You just sit around playing video games. Man.
Yeah. The Amazon guys got
high heels.
Lucky I put on pants for this.
The Amazon guys.
Wait, you guys are wearing pants? Oh man,
I've got a G-string on right now.
I should have bought a nightie, a see-through nightie to wear during my hat. Bobby asks the Sailor's home then if he can use their head since he has to piss real bad. He says,
"I don't mean your head. I'm not gonna piss on your head, your hair and all. Just gonna piss in the toilet. Y'all take a listen. You hear a deep sound coming down from Bobby Peru."
It's a fucking charming guy here.
From his confusingly large penis.
Yeah. Quick fact. Willem Dafoe is actually urinating in the toilet when he goes to visit Lula. Apparently, Dafoe had drunk a lot of bottled water and really needed to go. It was only later that he found out the toilet was not a working one, and some poor crew member had to clean it up.
Maybe that's why the vomit never got cleaned up either.
It's real vomit.
Yeah. I love that we got another chance for you to call him Willem Dafoe.
Oh my God, I did, didn't I? Every time, dude. It's stuck in my head. It's stuck in my head. Lula covers her breasts since the nightie is see-through and is understandably uncomfortable with this whole situation. Bobby asks why the room smells like puke and says, "You been puking, little girl?" Then he asks if she's pregnant, and she sternly asks him to leave. Now, before we get to the next part, I just want to apologize to Nigel, because there's a night back in Dom's room where something like this almost happened exactly to the T. And Nigel, for that, I'm truly sorry. I'm sure you had some
happen?
Flashbacks.
Is that why you're apologizing? Because you should be.
Yeah, I should have been a little more charming. Gentle. All right, now back to the funny. So things get real rapey here, like real quick. Bobby says, "I sure do like a woman with nice tits like yours, who talks tough and looks like she can fuck like a bunny." Gets a little more and more uncomfortable as Bobby gets closer to her while he tells her he'd fuck her good. She tells Gummy to get out, so he pulls a Donald Trump and tries to grab her by the pussy since, when she backs away slowly rather than quick like a bunny, he took it to mean she's into him. He grabs her roughly by the neck and says, "Say fuck me and I'll leave." Then shit gets real intense as he screams,
I'll tear your fucking heart out, girl!
while looking at her with this insane wide-eyed look on his face.
Man, Willem Dafoe has such a dude has such range on he just snaps from this goofy, gummy, weird character to absolutely fucking terrifying when he grabs her by the neck.
He's one of
your fucking heart out, girl.
Yeah, he's one of the
he's
greatest
got such
actors.
Unique energy.
Yeah, that can make that transition from sweet, charming, or goofy, charming to just crazy like that.
It's like in The Lighthouse, it's kind of funny throughout, but then there's these moments where he's just so intense and terrifying. So good at that.
Yeah. He tells her to say fuck me and he'll leave a few dozen times and gropes her up and down. After a minute or two of having this lunatic grope her and whispering fuck me in her face with his stinking gums, she eventually says that, she wants him to fuck her. This prompts him to hilariously jump backwards while giggling. He says,
"Someday, honey, I will, but I gotta get going."
Then he leaves after saying, "Sing, don't cry." And Lula sobs and clicks her red heels together over and over. Just gets weirder and weirder as this fucking movie goes on. Bobby happens
Someday I will.
One day I will. Bobby happens upon Sailor finishing up his oil change at the garage, and Gummy McGee asks if Sailor wants a beer. Sailor says, "Yeah, Bobby, that'll be fine." And they head down the old dirt road. Next, we see Bobby saying, "Fuck me," over and over 3 inches from Sailor's face. No, sorry, that's just a fantasy I had.
Get us a hotel room, some ketchup bottles, mustard,
maybe an Asian
town.
massage hooker.
She'll jack my giant penis, which is up at my stomach, right in my belly button.
I'll make you look at my awkward looking stomach.
Dog eat dog, by the way, since nobody has ever seen that.
Nobody's seen that. Nobody's seen our episode on it. Bobby asks Sailor where his pretty little lady is today, and Sailor says she's resting at their room. We cut back to Lula sobbing into a mirror saying Sailor's name, then to a charming little middle of nowhere Texas bar. Sailor and Bobby.
This is she's just holding her face, screaming into the mirror, which I think was another Wizard of Oz reference there. I think there's because she looks into a mirror in Wizard of Oz, right?
God, am I wrong? I can't remember. It's been so long since I've seen that movie.
I thought it was. I mean, I just took it as a parallel to her mom. Going insane.
Which she has, she has the red lipstick and the red fingernails.
Yep.
Which mirror those same, red lipstick all over her mom's face.
Yeah.
Sailor and Bobby look about as conspicuous in a place as Pee Wee Herman in the biker bar from Pee Wee's Big Adventure, but no one seems to pay them any mind. Which is true. They
the bolo tie, gums, snakeskin jacket.
They're so out of out of place. And I feel like in Texas at a bar like that, people would be a little more critical of these outsiders being there. Bobby tells Sailor about a situation in Lobo he's been studying while Sailor looks up into a funhouse mirror or something. Bobby says there's a feed store that keeps $5,000 in their safe and he wants Sailor's help to rob it. Sailor says he's not interested, but Bobby says there's only 2 employees, so it'll be an easy job. He asks if Sailor is planning on raising a family in Big Tuna, and Sailor asks him what the hell he means by that. It's a random question. What do you mean? Mm. Bobby says he knows Lula is pregnant, and Sailor wants to know how he knows, but Bobby says a couple grand would go a long way in getting them out west. Bobby says he talked to Lula that afternoon when Sailor again presses him on it, and Sailor gives him a look like he's going to knock Bobby's 2 remaining teeth out. Bobby says, are you in or are you out on this deal? And Sailor says,
I ain't fucking sure, Bobby.
Sailor chugs the last of his beer and Bobby says, had enough? Then Sailor slams the glass down and says, I have now.
He's upset that Bobby went by and talked to Lula, and I think, you know, he's kind of drunk, so that's the only reason he's kind of taking this seriously. And then he realizes, like, I really don't have, I have $40.
Yeah, because he has how much money? Yeah, how much money you got? $40.
Yep. Yeah.
Bobby takes him outside and shows Sailor some guns he has in his trunk, and after some more convincing, Sailor reluctantly agrees to doing the job. Bobby says he'll pull his car around behind the motel at 10 in the morning the next day, and Sailor says that kind of money would get them a long way down the yellow brick road. Again, Wizard of Oz. But it better go real smooth, which obviously it's not going to, if you got to say that. By the way, we see this part of the conversation through a crystal ball for whatever reason. Just, again.
Like, so we see this crystal ball a couple times, and I gotta wonder, like, is this supposed to be the good witch, which we see at the end, watching over what's happening, or is this supposed to be the bad witch watching over what's happening?
Yeah. That's a good question. I would think good witch, because then she comes and visits him when he's unconscious.
Yeah.
She's
like, you made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah. But we can fix it now.
Lula's forgiven you.
Very when that part happened, just reminisced about Bad Lieutenant. Just like a very like cheesy ending. Yeah, that works out perfect. The guy. Back at the motel, Lula is on her 4,000th cigarette of the day when Sailor finally comes home. She excitedly tells a horse radio on the nightstand, "Here comes Sailor," and pets its face. She's all. He comes in and gives her a kiss, and she asks if he's been drinking. He again complains about the puke smell in the room, as if there isn't a super easy solution to this whole situation. Just clean it up.
Just clean the fucking puke up. Jesus Christ.
Texas heat. Come clean it up. Oh, God, that'd be even worse, dude.
Yeah, there's no like air conditioning whatsoever.
No.
That I saw.
No.
Though she's not just drenched in sweat, which you would think she would be in this fucking, this almost like a torture box.
Well, like Nigel said, she's in that 90 for, airflow.
Yeah, stay cool.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I mean, my 90.
Go on.
It's nice and cool.
Go on. He strips down into his underwear while a cow horn, neon light, or something flickers next to the bed. Can either of you guys tell me what the fuck that thing was?
Cannot figure out for the life of me what that thing is supposed to be.
What's the point?
What is that? It wasn't there earlier.
No, it wasn't. And it pisses me off
like a cow horn on top of like two streaks of light of some sort that are just flickering.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that supposed to be?
And it distracts you from like the best part of the movie so far. Nick wearing like this G-string looking thing.
Like some Speedo underwear.
Yeah. I had a hard time beating off to that moment because I was so fucking distracted. Yeah, fucking David Lynch. Anyways, he tells her he was out with Bobby, and she asks him if they can leave this absolute fucking house of horrors. He says they're going to real soon, and she asks if he's up to something with Bobby Peru. She says Bobby's a black angel, and if he hooks up with him, he'll regret it. He says, "Thanks, darling. I know you got my best interest in mind, but I got to get some sleep now." She says, "This whole world's wild at heart." Hey, that's the name of the movie. "And weird on top." Oh, whoops, I stepped on your line.
No, that's fine. That's fine. You could
She starts crying and says, "I wish you'd sing me Love Me Tender. I wish I was somewhere over the rainbow. It's just shit. He covers his face either in disgust for what he's about to do or to mask the stench of her vomit on the floor. We cut back to that shack with a full dumpster behind it, only to see that Bobby and Perdita are together in that shack. And we see that Perdita is related to that crazy as fuck voodoo bitch who killed Johnny. I guess that all makes sense. She tells Bobby that Sailor
all work for
Santos or Mr. Reindeer.
Mr. Reindeer.
Yeah.
Again, his name is Mr. Reindeer.
It's a David Lynch
Mr. Reindeer.
Mr. Reindeer.
I love how she says it. She sounds like she's handicapped or something. Whatever you say, Mr. Reindeer.
Yeah, she's got like a speech impediment.
Well, it's like her Creole accent, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Grace, what's her name, is absolutely not Creole whatsoever.
She tells Bobby that Sailor stopped by to ask if there was a contract on him, and she told him no. He says he could have a bad accident, though, before, during, or after the holdup, with a silver dollar given as part of the hit stuck to his forehead.
Just cause. Can't just reveal that silver dollar in a normal way.
Nope.
He just sticks it to his head and then could have an accident.
Outside the motel Iguana, Sailor questions himself as to whether he should go along with this robbery. Bobby rolls up with Perdita, and Sailor is shocked to see her. He says,
"What the hell's she doing here, man?"
And Bobby explains that she's, his girl and their getaway driver.
Just one of the few like really cagey moments in the movie.
Yeah.
What the hell's she doing here, man?
Yeah.
So
Then Bobby
excessive.
calls Sailor Mr. Big Round Balls. And Sailor reluctantly hops in the back of the car. Lula hangs out in the motel with Mr. Horse, her only companion, and smokes herself and fetus into an early grave while Sailor, Bobby, and Perdita drive to the feed store they're going to rob. In the backseat, Sailor looks sad and ashamed of himself the whole way. So he knows it's wrong.
I love that shot of him just center screen with his hair blowing around. It's I don't know. It's another one of those like iconic shots from this movie. Another Cage iconic shot.
Another Mei shot.
Living Mei.
The three of them pull up to an abandoned building. No, wait, that's the actual feed store. And they pop pantyhose on their heads as a disguise. Last time, just want to point out, last time Nick robbed a place with a panty on his head, it didn't go super well. So I can't say I have high hopes for this robbery. You got pantyhose on your head, son.
On your head.
They head inside.
I'm in Dutch with the wife. Come on.
They head inside with Bobby sporting a shotgun and Sailor with a pistol. They bust through the door and Bobby yells at the two clerks to get in the back while Sailor puts both hands in the air and screams for no discernible reason.
Ah, both of you!
Another cagey moment. Just so out of place.
Screaming, key! Open it!
Open it! It really feels out of character for him to do that in this scene. This feels like Nick Cage.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like Sailor Ripley.
From that moment outside or right before he gets in the car to when he hits the ground.
It's almost like when he doesn't have the snakeskin jacket on, he's just Nick Cage.
Nick Cage, yeah.
He's not his Elvis persona.
I wonder if they shot this stuff early on and he hadn't kind of like moved into that Elvis flow.
I kind of take it as like, he's got a cloak on when he's wearing that snakeskin jacket.
Yeah, that's a good point. Or when he's around Lula.
When he's with Lula, yeah.
He has that other persona.
Super cool fantasy persona. And then he's just a normal guy when he's not wearing it.
Then he's Nick Cage when he's not wearing it.
Yeah. Well, I guess as close to normal as you can get if you're Nick Cage.
I used to think I was an alien. Outside, a cop rolls up and questions why there's a woman in a wig sitting behind the wheel of an idling convertible.
Goofy hair.
And then she's like speaking to him in like a Spanish accent for some reason.
Yeah, she's Spanish, just like her mom.
I thought her mom was like Creole.
She's Creole.
He asks her if she's waiting for somebody, and she says her esposo. Esposo.
It's Spanish, dude. Come on.
I don't speak Spanish.
I did that for
I
you.
barely speak American.
That's what she says. She says mi esposo.
Yeah, mi esposo, yeah. She says she's waiting for her.
I originally wrote it husband, and then I was like, wait, Vince is reading this part, so he'll know how to say this word.
Esposo? Yeah.
Nope.
No. And she says she's waiting for her espresso. No, she says she's waiting for her esposo, who is inside, and he tells her to watch that she doesn't burn herself with her cigarette. That's good cop right there, I guess. He continues to question her while Bobby gets the money. Sailor says they should go since they have the money, and Bobby turns to one of the clerks, says, "Say cheese," and blasts that dude for no reason, blowing off the clerk's hand in the process. Outside, the cop hears the shot, and Perdita takes off, hitting the cop with the convertible in the process. Sailor says, "Cool it, man," to Bobby, who grins at him with a twisted, gummy smile. Just fucking nasty smile, dude. But it's creepy. Like, I do give him credit. Like, Lynch finds great ways of like turning normal moments into creepy moments.
I'm sure he just saw the way that Willem Dafoe looked in that pantyhose.
Yeah.
Was just like, get a close up on him, and make him smile. This is awesome.
Well, he points the shotgun at Sailor and says,
"You're next, fucker."
Sailor tries to shoot him, but of course there are no bullets in the gun. It's the oldest trick in the book. Now, if only never mind. I'm not going to go there.
Yeah, I can see that joke coming too.
I'm not going to go there. Allegedly. Not called it. By the way, Bobby laughing with the pantyhose on his head is the weirdest goddamn thing in the world and all sorts of unsettling. Sailor tells Bobby to fight him like a man since he doesn't want the last thing he sees on this planet to be that weirdo grinning at him like a maniac with pantyhose on his head. The clerk who just got shot earlier grabs a gun, but Bobby spots him and shoots that guy first. Sailor uses this as an opportunity to run for it, and Bobby laughs to himself while reloading.
Okay.
They run outside only to be greeted. Yeah, it was great. Like,
I love that.
Okay.
What's funny though is like Sailor runs outside, and that's when we cut to Bobby doing that. Okay, and then he starts reloading. But when we see the reverse of that, of Sailor coming out, Bobby's right behind him.
Yeah,
like a foot away.
Yeah, just bad editing, or not bad editing, but just a mistake in editing. They run outside only to be greeted by the cop who says, "Stop, you sons of bitches!" And Sailor immediately gives himself up. Bobby, however, gets shot in the arm, then shoots like 4 more times before he falls to the ground and accidentally, or possibly on purpose, blows his head off.
Oh, for Christ's sakes.
It's great.
Yeah, I wasn't I wasn't sure if that was like he intentionally killed himself, or if he just tripped and fell and blew his
I think
own
it's
head
supposed
off.
to be an accident because it ratchets the comedy up.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be an accident too, but it did kind of seem like on purpose.
It's just so hilariously goofy.
The shot of his head just flying, like arcing is so fucking funny.
That's why, like, this was the scene where they were like, "This is gonna have to be an X-rated movie because of that shot." And I'm like, "How can you take that seriously?"
It's like
it's supposed
cartoon
to be fun. It's
violence.
Like, you know, in Kill Bill when everybody's bleeding and it's just shooting like gallons of blood out.
Geyser.
Like,
well, they had to make that scene black and white for the same reason.
Yeah,
because it would have been X-rated if they had done it.
Oh, God.
But it's okay. If you just put some smoke over it, it looks... then you can show all the violence you want.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, Sailor puts his hands behind his head and sobs on the ground saying, Lula, I really let you down this time. Inside the feed store, the two clerks hunt for the one guy's missing hand while a dog walks out the back with his hand in his mouth. Because comedy.
You can sew those things back on now.
That worked just as good.
So fucking good, man. I feel like this kind of just hilarious violence hadn't really been done so much up to this point. This is 1990. I mean, this is a long time before.
Yeah, I mean, it really reminded me of Raising Arizona.
Yeah, I was gonna say it reminds me a lot of like the Coen's humor.
Yeah,
when they do stuff like that, like kind of funny, violent stuff.
Like a fucking Looney Tunes cartoon.
Yeah, it really is. That whole scene, this fucking Looney Tunes act. We see Sailor back in jail again, and we cut to Lula wearing the candy necklace that he gave her outside a courtroom, screaming his name and eating candy pieces one by one. And then some old guy with a hat on sideways asks, where he can find some inmate, and he snaps at her, stomps his feet on the ground a few times. Just can't have a fucking normal second in this movie.
I love that he's just like, okay, walks off.
So strange.
Yeah,
I feel like when these like weird background extra character moments happen, it almost always seems like they just found some random person who was just in the bus station at the town that they were filming or something. Just said, "Here, put this hat on sideways. Snap at her. Snap her feet."
You over there. You want to be in a movie?
Sir, why are you yelling at me in the megaphone?
Want to hear the song?
Rammstein. Lula's mom shows up with Santos, and Marietta tells her she's going to take her home. Lula tells her she can't just leave Sailor behind, and Marietta says, "Oh, yes, you can." Then Santos gives her a super awkward hug, and she screams at the top of her lungs. Just a real stable family here.
Yeah.
We see Sailor in jail reading a letter from Lula telling him about his daughter, and we see a montage of him working out and growing his hair while riding back and forth, making origami swans, learning Spanish, and hanging out with a guy named Baby O. Oh wait, no, that's from a different movie. She tells him she's keeping the baby and she plans to name it Pace, no matter if it's a boy or a girl.
Really likes that salsa.
New York City.
Oh, fuck. She says she'll see him in 6 years when he's out of prison and that she misses dancing, talking, and fucking. Meanwhile, he smokes 2 cigarettes at the same time again. That's his way of coping with stress, I guess.
I guess so. Yeah, when he's in stressful situations, 2 at a time.
2 at a time. Well, better 2 cig. Never mind. we cut to 5 years, 10 months, and 21 days later, where we see that the baby was miraculously born despite Lula smoking 18 packs a day throughout the pregnancy. We cut to Marietta. I every time I see her fucking name, I think of Marriott. I don't know why. It's my stupid brain association. We cut to Marietta
working in a motel, man.
I guess. We cut to Marietta on the phone with Lula, and she's obviously smashed out of her mind. She asks her daughter when Sailor's train will arrive, and she drunkenly asks her not to go. But Lula finally stands up for herself by saying,
"Mama, if you get in the way of me and Sailor's happiness, I'll fucking pull your arms out by the roots."
Lula then throws water on a picture of her mom, which causes her mom to go, So I guess she melted like the witch in the Wizard of Oz. Yeah. Lula almost kills her son on the way to pick up Sailor in the convertible. And seconds later, they see an accident on the side of the road.
Just a bad intersection, I guess.
We see a guy bleeding to death on the road, and another guy rolls into frame in a wheelchair and says,
Hey man, same fucking thing happened to me last year.
Then he makes a weird move with his arm and says, "Sheer." He just never lets up the bizarreness. What the fuck, dude?
I don't know what Lynch's fascination with car crashes are.
I don't know.
I don't
He loves them.
Yeah.
There's fucking another one not that long after this. We see Sailor standing by some train tracks with a stuffed bunny. No, wait. It's a lion this time, actually. He and Lula lock eyes, and he walks to her. He looks down at his son and shakes his hand after the kid gives him an awkward smile. He gives Pace the line and says, "I was going to get my hair cut." God damn it, dude. I keep going back to fucking Con Air. Lula and Sailor stare at each other like they haven't seen each other in, I don't know, like 6 years. And she asks if he's hungry. They head down the road.
If he allowed her to visit with the kid.
Right.
Apparently not.
Apparently not. Nope.
No. I mean, it's too far away.
I guess.
She can't afford
It
to go
is
to
funny
Big Tuna.
how much this scene is mirrored in Con Air.
In Con
which
Air.
I wonder if it was an homage to Wild at
I
Heart.
know, it's weird.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me. Writers like
Though I
doing that
can't
type of
really
stuff.
see. I mean, it wasn't directed by Michael Bay, so maybe that director actually watched Wild at Heart. You know,
Yeah, true.
something outside of just random blockbusters.
Yeah. Well, they head down the road in the convertible for a bit, but Lula pulls the car to the side of the road and gets out. Sailor comforts his son for a second before getting out and telling her, "The boy's frightened, Lula. This ain't no good." And he says it's a mistake for them to be together since they spent the last 6 years apart. Then he tells his son, "Hey, amigo, if ever something don't feel right to you, remember what? You want me to say?
Oye, amigo.
Oye. You want me to be? He tells his son,
with a
I'll say it like him. Oye, amigo.
Oh yeah, amigo. If ever something don't feel right to you, remember what Pancho said to the Cisco Kid. Let's win before we're dancing at the end of a rope without music."
That's definitely a Nick Cage thing. Nice advice to give your kid, since I'm guessing what didn't feel right was having a kid. I mean, that's she says she didn't feel right having the kid, and then she has a kid. So I don't know. Fuck. Anyways, he tells Lula she's been doing fine without him, and there's no need to make life tougher than it has to be. He gives her a kiss and walks off, apparently into West Side Story gang territory or something. I was just waiting for them to all start fucking dancing and kicking his ass.
You're a jet all the way.
Lula screams after him, and 10 seconds later, we see a dozen guys pop out from every street corner to kick Sailor's ass, since I'm guessing they thought this snakeskin jacket was so dope they just had to have it. Sailor stops in the middle of the street, lights up a cigarette, and asks the dozen dudes surrounding him,
What do you faggots want?
I love the look he gives to Brackets want.
Well, they beat the shit out of him for a second before knocking him out. The guys all disappear, and we see Gilda the Good Witch, I guess, come down from the sky. Glinda. The guys all disappear, and we see Gilda the Good Witch, I guess. Glinda. Oh my God. The guys all disappear, and we see Glinda the Good Witch with the good hair, I guess, come down from the sky in a bubble. Why not? Good Witch tells him Lula loves him, and he says, "But I'm a robber and a manslaughter, and I haven't had any parental guidance," which became super obvious when he just left a puddle of puke on the floor for like 3 days. The Good Witch tells him that Lula has forgiven him for all the things and not to be afraid. He says, "But I'm wild at heart." And she says, "If you're truly wild at heart, you'll fight for your dreams. Don't turn away from love, Sailor." Then they blow each other a kiss. Of course, Nick has to do it awkwardly. And Sailor wakes up in the street, still surrounded by the gang on, what was it, Bugle Boy?
Bugle Boy.
By the gang.
You remember Bugle Boy?
Bugle Boy? No, I don't.
Nobody remembers Bugle Boy?
No.
Okay.
Lost on me.
No.
90s,
by the
90s jeans brand.
Well, Bugle Boy ad extras.
And they dressed exactly like this in those ads.
Semi-homoerotic.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Bugle Boys, right?
No.
Yeah, I used to wear those jeans.
I'm old as shit.
When I was a kid.
Sorry.
One of the guys says, what we all want to say when we think about this movie. Had enough, asshole? And with a horribly broken nose, Sailor says he has and apologizes to referring to these gentlemen as homosexuals. He thanks them for teaching him a valuable lesson in life. Then he puts his arms in the air and screams,
What
he runs
lesson did they teach him?
Not to be not to be a bigot against homosexuals, I guess.
Yeah, don't be homophobic.
Okay. That's what we're supposed to get out of that?
I think it was, he was basically trying to be the tough guy in a situation that was not going to go his way.
Yeah.
And they beat his ass for it, and that caused him to have the fever dream vision of the Good Witch.
I mean, it sure seemed like they were going to beat him up no matter what in that. I don't know what
I think
the
they
hell
were just
that was
robbing
supposed to
him
be.
because they took his suitcase.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
okay.
took. Well,
They
I
just
think
took
he
his
just
shit.
abandoned the suitcase. Let's be honest.
Maybe they were going to rob him, but he didn't have anything because he just got out of prison. So
Yeah.
I mean, I looked it up, and those snakeskin jackets are like $1,000 minimum.
Oh,
so
yeah.
he could have just taken his jacket.
Yeah. Not even they wanted it though.
Yeah.
Well, he runs back towards her down the road, and we cut back to the picture of Lula's mom, which she disappears from, just like the Wicked Witch of the West in the Wizard of Oz. We see Sailor running down the road again, but now there's a traffic jam for some reason. Maybe from the accident that we just saw.
No, there's another one. You can see.
Nope, there's a brand new one where he plows into a fucking post off the side of the road, but still
there's an
traffic is
accident.
jammed up.
Look, you lose. There's probably another one up ahead that we don't see.
Well, yes, I guess
There's one behind the accident, or behind the traffic as well, and there's one off to the side.
There's just accidents.
One on top of the
everywhere.
building.
There's a flipped over ambulance laying in the intersection up ahead.
John Goodman's crawling out of it.
Bringing out the dead, by the way.
Tom Sizemore's just
People may
bashing-
have seen that one.
Tom Sizemore's bashing the lights. R.I.P. Tom Sizemore. He just kind of runs on top of everybody's car until he catches up to her, puts his arms out, calls her name, and then she just jumps on the hood with him. They embrace each other while their dorky kid grins at them from the front seat. And Sailor tells her, I just met the Good Witch. Okay. And then he sings her Love Me Tender as the credits roll over them. The end.
What a weird, wonderful, fucked up, bizarre movie.
Yeah.
Every moment is strange, or at least interesting and memorable. Unique. Unique. After finishing Wild at Heart, I got to thinking, boy, that movie was weird as hell. I need to know if the book is anywhere near as insane as that wonderfully bizarre masterpiece that David Lynch made. So I tracked it down over on bookoutlet.com. Not only was I able to confirm that no, the book does not read like the ramblings of a mental patient, but I was able to snag it for a ridiculously great price. Book Outlet adds hundreds of new books daily, and you can get up to 90% off original list price on brand new books by scanning the QR code on your screen or clicking on the link in the description below. Not only will you score incredible prices on brand new books, but if you spend over $35, you'll receive free shipping as well.
We have a Coppola questions before we move on.
Coppola questions. Okay, so I'm not going to ask like as many questions as you would assume because, like I said, I feel like at a certain point you just have to suspend your thoughts, your disbelief, everything, and just kind of let this thing wash over you. I'll ask Just a few simple questions here. Like, first, what was that hitman's plan at the beginning? Like, so he gets the money from Marietta to kill him, but how the hell is he going to get away with killing Sailor in front of all those people? Are you just going to stab him and walk away? What was the plan?
I don't know.
Maybe it's just to teach Marietta. I keep thinking Henrietta from Evil Dead.
Marriott.
Teach Marriott to like get professional hitmen next time instead of just some random guy she found at the opera house or whatever and handed a lot of cash to.
She's just terrible at picking people to kill people.
Just so that she's just spontaneous and doesn't actually think shit through.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
I mean, she is kind of dumb. It's kind of like showing both her and her daughter are really stupid. So
I mean, yeah, I wonder if maybe pace.
The plan was to pull the knife on him and take him to a different location. But he like literally just tells him like, Marietta just paid me to kill you.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we're supposed to think about it.
That was so long ago
in
the movie.
Yeah, that was so long ago.
How the hell are you going to remember the first minute of the film when there's so many other things?
Yeah.
Don't forget about it. Don't worry.
What's with the crystal ball? I mean, I think we sort of asked this. Is like, is it the wicked? Is it supposed to be Mary or? Now I'm like messing up her name. Marietta, right?
Yeah, Marietta. I think that's. As I was watching the movie, that's what I thought. But now, thinking back on it, it may have been the Good Witch watching this whole thing unfold, so that she could show up at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, it's good of explanation as anything.
Yeah.
We also kind of asked this in the moment, but like, what's going on with the timeline? I think it's just to make you confused, and it feels like a Lynch thing to do.
Yeah, I was confused about why like Johnny was in New Orleans, and then Marietta says she'll come visit him, but like, isn't he supposed to be following their kids? So why is he going to hang out in New Orleans while she shows up? And then they go on a date.
He says like, I need to stay on their trail. And she's like, no, just wait there and I'll be there.
Yeah.
I'll be coming in on the flight the next day or something.
Yeah. She wants to slow him down so that he doesn't run into Santos and Santos men.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, good job on that.
Yeah.
I mean, so the point of killing Johnny was because he knew too much about Santos' operations and his dealings with Mr. Reindeer. I guess that's the whole point. So he was planning on killing him no matter what, and Marietta like staunchly opposed him killing Johnny the entire time. But then she's just kind of like, that's fine. I guess she doesn't know about it at the end, right?
No.
Yeah.
Because she thinks Johnny left, but then finds out Santos was the one that did it. And
well, she doesn't actually find out.
She never finds out.
He says that
he says I didn't do
him.
anything to him.
Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, maybe she's just
they just follow
ignorant.
together, her and Santos, to catch up with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Which by the time they catch up with the kids, they've already fucked it up anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we sort of answered this one, but like, what was the point of having that car crash in the middle of the movie?
Yeah.
Just to make things seem more grounded and like coming crashing down around them. I guess.
Like they're not going to the Emerald City. They're in the real world now, and everything's crappy and shitty. And
they're being attacked by the flying monkeys at this point in the film. Which I guess all those idiots in that trailer park could have been those flying monkeys.
Yeah,
maybe that's why Bobby Peru has the gums. Though I think that was in the book. Just to make him look more like an animal of some sort.
Yeah, could be, yeah.
I don't know if I really want to answer this one, but like, do you think Lula was actually into Bobby Peru in that super uncomfortable scene?
No.
She seems to kind of be getting turned on.
I think that's common with victims of sexual assault. So I think that's just that playing out, like her, freezing up and trying to act appeasing so that she doesn't get hurt more, and she knows what's going to happen. And super uncomfortable, but yeah, that's the sense that I got from it.
Following up on that, do you think Bobby learned that fuck me trick from Juana?
100%.
Yeah.
She used it on him.
Probably. Fuck me now, Bobby Peru. Because he seems to know her, but had never met Perdita. So I guess that he lives in New Orleans and came to Texas to do this job. That was the sense that I got. He got there a few days before Sailor and Lula did. Probably once the coin was given out and it was set up. Though, like I said, Mr. Reindeer calls that shack. And when the phone is answered, he says, "My boy." And so...
Yeah, I don't know.
You know,
maybe Bobby was already there doing some other job and he's the one that answered, and he takes the contract or whatever.
Maybe he was there causing that car accident.
Yeah, maybe.
What the hell was with that gang at the end?
I thought it was gonna turn out to be hit, like the final.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Originally, it was like, Santos's men are there.
And then it was just the fucking gang from West Side Story.
Yeah, and they just are like, had enough, asshole. And then he leaves, and that's that. Which, going back to that, wouldn't Santos just kill Sailor now because he's out of prison? Like,
I don't really feel like he ever wanted to kill.
No, he's just doing
a
job. So maybe it would depend on if Marietta is still paying him to do it. Which she might, because she seems even more unhinged.
Yeah.
Now she's too drunk.
Like maybe it's because it failed, so therefore the contract is no longer a thing. But wouldn't he still have a contract on his life?
I mean, this isn't John Wick world, so probably not.
Yeah. So, yeah, and Marietta apparently disappeared.
Yeah, she's gone now.
Supposed to be left.
She melted.
She just died off screen.
Yeah, maybe that's what we're supposed to take. Yeah, she died. She finally died. Her liver finally gave out.
Yeah. She was chugging another martini in that scene.
Yeah, she was.
Wow. And then my final question, what do you think Dell is up to these days? Do you think he went off and died in the woods, or did he?
Yeah, he probably befriended a bunch of rats. That lives with them now. Became a bellhop at a...
He's a one-armed bellhop. Yeah, at a busted down ski resort.
Every Crispin Glover role's the same character.
Same character.
Throughout his life.
He went back to his old high school. He's a janitor there now.
I know we kind of talked about the fire being like establishing with all tied to this moment where Lula's dad was burned to death for knowing too much or whatever. But I just kind of wonder, like, what was up with the fire motif that kept going through there? Was there anything more to it, or was it just to tie all of that together in one thing? Was it, like their lives are hell or something?
I wonder if it's like, the fire burning within them. There was a thing behind the scenes where David Lynch said he just loved the sound design of that match being struck, and he was like, just really triggered emotions each time. And I think it ties back to Uncle Pooch dying in the car, falling off of the cliff, and then the house fire, and like the connection between Santos, Marietta, Lula, Sailor, all of these different characters. It all kind of comes from that, because Uncle Pooch died, but he had already introduced Marietta and her husband to Santos, which kind of triggered all of this horrible shit to happen, because Marietta used him to kill her husband, and then she ended up like kind of having him in her life from then on, because for whatever reason he's fascinated with her and wants her to be with him. Yeah. And Lula and Sailor are just kind of caught in it, though Sailor is also connected to Santos and the fire. So I think that's why it just keeps tying back into their characters, and maybe that fire within these two kids, their burning love or whatever. I don't know, but it does seem to coincide. If you watch, the fire is connected to the love scenes every single time. There's a match that gets lit, and then we see the cigarette smoke after they get done.
Right.
every time, it seems like. So I don't know.
And then, I guess as their relationship fizzles out, or that passion fizzles out, there's less and less fire.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I guess it does kind of
that's interesting.
Symbolize their love.
Yeah.
Fiery love.
I like that. Yeah. What's with the weird Santa connections, if anything? Like you said, there's Santos, Mr. Reindeer, and Dell obsessed with dressing like Santa year round. Like, is there anything? Do we think there's anything there, or is it just typical David Lynch weird shit? Because Santa's like
David Lynch.
Santa's supposed to be a comforting image of childhood and stuff. It's like,
Instead
it's funny if I perverted it.
Yeah. I don't know. I wonder if it was just like maybe that character actually was called Mr. Reindeer in the book, and he was like, it'd be nice if we tied some Santa stuff in there. I have no idea. I feel like there'd be more insights in a lot of these questions if we had read the book.
Yeah.
Because that was the source material that David Lynch took to create this madness. So I don't know. I don't really have an answer for that.
All right, and my last one is like, why isn't Lula in some sort of trouble at the end of this? Is it just because she was helping the guy evade or whatever? Maybe they made it seem like she had been kidnapped by him and was sort of an unwilling participant in Sailor breaking parole or what?
I think if anything, it would be like a very minor thing. Like maybe she'd get community service or something. And we saw, she goes back to North Carolina and lives. So maybe, when she first got back, she had to face consequences or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I mean, she didn't have anything to do with the bank robbery, so I wouldn't think so.
And helping somebody break parole would probably get you a
a misdemeanor or something. Yeah. She's got a rich mom. Maybe they just paid off some.
You're rich, white in America.
Yeah.
Got it made.
I feel like there's an infinite number of questions you can have with this movie.
Yeah.
But
I think it's to the point in the film where I stopped trying to make sense of a lot of the stuff and just, like you said, just went along for the ride. And I'm glad I did, because
it's kind of like Mandy, you just kind of gotta let it happen.
It made it more enjoyable just letting it happen and just enjoying his weirdisms. The ending, like I wish I could pick his brain on as to like why did he decide to change the ending the way he did. Like we talked about, like what's the point of that gang? Him going back to her. It just kind of felt out of character and unnecessary.
Maybe he felt like they deserved a happy ending after the story kind of developed. We see that they do actually love each other, care about each other. It's kind of a downer to just kind of end on them splitting up for the sake of their kid or whatever.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said, was like, it didn't feel right for them not to end up together. And I think that's why they end up together at the end. I don't know about the Newsies coming to get him or the Good Witch coming down, all that stuff. But like them ending up together felt, like a good way to end it.
For me, I would have felt like, or I feel like if they had not ended up together, if they had agreed that it is better for them to be apart, I think that would have been more of a fulfilling character development for them, to see like when they were younger, they had this passion together and they were reckless, but as they've grown old and matured, they have to admit that they're not right for each other. Yeah, maybe they loved each other, but sometimes loving somebody to that extent doesn't mean that you should be together, because when you're together, you guys self-destruct.
Yeah.
But I guess
definitely
maybe
see them as self-destructive characters being together from here on out, even after this.
Yeah, maybe he didn't feel like that was being portrayed in the original way that they shot the ending, or they wrote the ending, or the original ending. So I could see him wanting a happy ending, because they just went through hell. So it would be nice to have a happy ending. Maybe he just,
like you said, maybe their ending makes sense in the book better, explained better,
because you have in
this movie.
Guessing there's a hell of a lot less weird incoherentness in the book.
Less barking. And I wonder if that's part of maybe why the author liked it. Like, you told a different version of the story I told, and your ending makes sense for the version that you have.
So that was kind of my only thing, is watching the ending and finding out that wasn't the ending of the novel. Just why? I wish I could pick his brain and figure out what exactly made him make that decision, other than he wanted a happy ending. Like, what about the original ending? Did it sit well with him, or how did he think the story he was telling, or why did he think the story he was telling you to end that way? Because it just felt really clunky. I don't know when they shot that in the process of filming the movie, but it just felt clunky from, like we talked about, the gang scene to the Good Witch to then him running on top of cars back to her. I did like the fact that they ended with him singing Love Me Tender, because that's like his moment of pronouncing his true love for her.
Yeah, but he plans to marry her now.
Yeah. But
they're going to live happily ever after with their kid, and they're going to take the kid to the hurricane and
the Biloxi.
Then he'll sing songs and take the Biloxi.
It's time for the trackers.
How do we want to hit us with the curse tracker on this one?
Yeah, this was another one that was surprisingly light on curses, although I will say that every curse that he had was only used once. Although he says Jesus and Christ as two separate ones, but I count those as kind of the same on the tracker. So that's the only one that doubled up. But as for the rest of them, so we had two Jesus or Christ, one hell, one bastard, which has been a while since we've had a bastard. I think Vampire's Kiss was the only other one, at least that I may have. Yeah. Or maybe I missed it in other films, but I noticed it in this one. So one goddamn and one god in the pejorative sense, and only one fuck, which is when he's in the bar with Bobby.
I ain't fucking for sure, Bobby.
Fucking sure. Yeah. It seemed like he did. For a while, I was wondering if this is gonna be another one where he doesn't swear at all. But in that third act, they all mostly come from the third act. I think almost all of them do. Where it's kind of like showing that things are a lot more intense for him, and he's getting. Things are breaking down and kind of going off the rails, so the curses come out a little bit more. And like we said earlier, when he's got that snakeskin jacket on, it's kind of his Elvis facade, the idealized man of Lula's dreams. And as the third act happens, he's kind of stripped that away, and he's more of a human person. So maybe the swearing kind of reflects that. So yeah. So that's 7 total curses in this movie. Our total is up to 610.
I do wonder if that is part of the whole thing. It was just. He's stripped of that persona, and I gotta wonder if that was something that Lynch had planned, because it's a very distinct choice to have him not wear that snakeskin jacket in that last robbery and stuff. But at the same time, it's like that would have been very easy to identify later on.
Yeah.
Who else is wearing that jacket?
I mean, it might also be because he talks about being a symbol of his individuality or whatever he says, and this is like, I don't know,
him kind of forking that over.
He's losing that as he has to revert back to a life of crime or something or other, or he's forced to get into the real world again and face the harshness of it and whatnot. And by the end, he puts it back on, and he's kind of back to that idealized self and singing "Love Me Tender" to Lula and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I kind of wish that he would have not had it on until he made the decision to go back to Lula.
To go back.
Maybe had it over his shoulder or something the whole time.
Yeah.
But anyways, runtime. This was one of the longest movies that we've done. Going to be one of our longest episodes for sure. It was the second longest show sheet that we've ever had behind Face Off. This was 124 minutes, so just over 2 hours. Which puts it behind Face Off, The Rock, National Treasure, and The Family Man, which still, The Family Man just did not seem like it should have been that long for a Christmas movie.
It should not have been.
Nudity. We have not had any nudity this entire season, but boy, did we make up for it in this movie. I counted 10 sets of breasts, not counting Laura Dern getting naked in every other scene.
Yeah.
But that's 20 total. You count the girls dancing in the background in every other scene, plus Laura Dern, 20 total breasts, which brings our grand total up to 58 now. The amount of boobage.
Yeah.
Did we have any nudity in season 2?
We did. Yeah. A few things here and there. A lot of butts. A lot of butts in that season.
Oh, yeah. It was a heavy butt season. That's right.
Very heavy butt season. A few penises as well. State and Country Tracker. They make their way from North Carolina down, but we only confirm North Carolina, Louisiana, and Texas. So those are the only ones I'm actually counting, which we had already been to Louisiana a few times, and we had been to Texas a few times as well. I think 3 times each now. But this is our first time in North Carolina. So that brings our grand total up to 21 total states, 17 countries, which we haven't left the U.S. again in this season again. Like the entire first season, we never left the U.S. And then the second season, we left a bunch. And now we haven't left again. It's interesting how that works. Budget versus gross is at a $10 million budget, made $14.6 million. So that brings our grand total up to $1.017.7 billion for total budget. There's been over $1 billion spent making Nick Cage movies for 33 movies, right? No. Yes. What episode are we on? 35?
I'm not keeping track.
36? I don't know.
Oh, no.
Anyways, over $1 billion, and then we have made $2.334 billion total.
Nice.
So over double. Top grossing, this is not even close. 14.6. Art house movies, kind of in the middle. Because we have so many movies that just made nothing. 14.6 is sandwiched in between Bringing Out the Dead and Bad Lieutenant Protocol New Orleans. Interesting lineup there. Trio of movies. Ratings, of course, are rated. We now have 18. So 18 versus 8 PG-13s, 6 unrated, and 2 PGs. And that leads us over to the kill tracker.
This one was super easy. Just one kill at the very beginning. He manslaughtered that guy.
He murdered the fuck out of him.
So that brings us to a total of 177 kills. And then he didn't die in this film. So 0 deaths. So we're still at 11 films where he's died.
Where does this masterpiece fall? Let's rank this film on the Cageometer.
All right, that leads us finally the most important question of this entire episode. Start with Vince, arbitrarily forever.
All right, unlike this film, I'll keep this short. So for movie, give it 7 out of 10. I did not think I was going to like this movie being older and having seen it or now seen it as an adult. But I did like the weirdness and the ebbs and flows. And like you said, it's a simple story that it tells, but I thought it was done pretty well. And it was entertaining. It was funnier than I remember it. I don't remember it being this funny as a kid, but obviously I was a kid. I probably had no fucking clue what was going on.
Yeah.
So I really appreciated the comedy and just kind of like the dark humor. Yeah, so I'll give it a 7 out of 10. For Cage, same. Give him a 7. I thought he did a good job. I thought he did a pretty good job at the film. I loved like the weird Elvis impersonation he was trying to do. I thought his Cage mannerisms when they came out fit at times. The third, like we talked about the third act, so I won't go too much. Didn't really seem to fit, but then when you think about taking him out of that character that he is with Lula and wearing that snakeskin jacket, it does fit more. So talking about it added that, gave me more appreciation of his weirdness in those scenes. But I really feel like him and Laura Dern had great chemistry. And I think that's what really kind of solidified his performance for me is when they were together and the way that they were told to act, it really just fit really well. And I really appreciated the performance from both of them. So 7 for movie, 7 for Cage.
Yeah, they sort of talked about that of like her being Marilyn Monroe and him being or being Elvis Presley the whole time. But yeah, that leads us over to Nigel. Where does Wild at Heart from 1990 rate on your Cageometer?
Yeah, this was the only David Lynch movie I've seen aside from Dune, which it's a David Lynch movie, obviously, but kind of feels like its own thing.
Yeah, it does.
This was like written and directed, I guess adapted and directed. But I didn't like the movie at first. I kind of felt like, all right, it's David Lynch. I do weird stuff to make people feel weird, and I have my actors overact on purpose to make people feel weird and stuff. But I turned around as the movie went along, and I kind of it fits really well. With once I kind of got it, kind of gave up those preconceived notions of what a movie should be and what I'm getting into by watching it. It kind of definitely feels like this movie coalesces around that style and works when you realize it's kind of like a modern fantasy telling of Wizard of Oz, set in a world that's got realistic shit in it. But it's like that surrealism adds to the realism that I mentioned before in certain places. And I really like that. Like, you don't get this kind of movie from everybody. Like, who else would make this kind of a film? And for that, I really appreciate David Lynch for it. He's not for everybody. It's definitely a kind of an acquired taste. I had to acquire it as I was watching it, but I'll give the movie a 7 as well. For that, I feel it's a little long-winded. It's a little, like we mentioned, it's a simple story, but it's kind of told in a bit of a confusing manner that maybe makes it seem more complicated than it is. And certain things were confusing timeline wise. I don't, like we said, it's edited out of order, and that's just maybe the general David Lynch style of making you uneasy at every single moment that you're in a film. Like, you start to feel grounded with something, and there's something that throws you off, But I think that's very intentional, and it's a style, and you either love it or hate it. And I appreciated it for this. So yeah, 7 for me. Cage, I'll go with 7 as well. For his performance, I liked it. I'll basically echo everything Vince said. He kind of took all the words out of my mouth. He was enjoyable to watch. His chemistry with Laura Dern was fantastic. I think she is a much better standout in this movie than him, actually. The way that she plays Lula as that kind of dumb, naive, childlike woman, but also has had a really horrible life and a really horrible past. And the way that she performs it, you kind of get that. You definitely believe that about this character, and their chemistry is great. Their relationship really grounds the film, even through all the more fantastical stuff. It feels like a realistic relationship, despite all the horrible things going on and how screwed up their lives actually are. At first it feels like all the sex is gratuitous, and it might be in a certain respect, but like Laura Dern said, she kind of felt like it was important to the character and for the film, and added things to it. It wasn't just there for the sake of being nude for it. So
though there are a lot of those that seem
there
to be
are other
happening.
Gratuitous scenes for sure. Yeah. That maybe she probably wasn't experiencing because she wasn't there when they filmed them. But for the character herself, it's not necessarily gratuitous. I think it's also kind of to show how vulnerable she is. We see her nude all the time, and it's kind of like, we kind of, I don't know if you feel this protectiveness over her and the shitty life that she has to lead. So that finally gets to that scene with Bobby Peru. It's really uncomfortable and really shocking. So
we've seen all of the moments of her being nude up to that point being these loving moments with Sailor, and now it's like really feels like we're being raped while we're watching the scene. Yeah,
definitely. And again, I don't think you get that from a lot of filmmakers. I don't think a lot of filmmakers would be able to deliver on that or want to, and without self-censoring or trying to not make the audience that uncomfortable in it. And there's kind of that realism kind of grounds it. So yeah, again, I don't know why I'm talking about Laura Dern's performance, but I think mainly it's just I appreciated it more than Nick Cage. But Cage's performance was good. I didn't find the Elvis impression to be too distracting. It fits with the overall rest of the fantastic elements of it. And like we mentioned in the third act, he kind of drops it as things get more realistic anyway. So and that also fits in the style of what's going on and what he was commanded to do. So another solid performance from him from fairly early on in his career.
Yeah.
So if he was still kind of that, I don't know if he hadn't hit that action star niche yet. He was kind of more in that romantic leading man kind of style, but definitely a bit of a departure from some of the other things we'd seen him at up to this point.
Isn't a lot of like these weird indie films at that time. That was kind of his thing, was like He's that weird guy from that vampire movie. He's that weird guy from that Coen Brothers movie. He's that weird guy from Moonstruck.
Yeah. So it kind of plays that hunk with a heart of gold, but a rocky past for a lot of these movies, aside from Vampire's Kiss.
He also
pretty much irredeemable in Vampire's Kiss.
Trying to think, like, I feel like he didn't have the Elvis impression when he sees Lula after he gets out of prison. Like, he doesn't really go back into that until he starts singing Love Me Tender.
Yeah, he didn't.
Though he does say, "Oh yeah, amigo."
Yeah.
He has that kind of moment there for a second. So yeah, maybe I don't know.
So yeah, I think one of the things I've heard is that a director's job is to get the best performance that they can out of the actors. One of the director's jobs, obviously, and I think that David Lynch did a good job with using Nicolas Cage's strengths to get this character before us in the way that he's presented and getting us to buy into it. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, we've seen when directors can't touch Nicolas Cage.
They can't rein him in.
Quite get the performance out of him that they're looking for. And a lot of times I feel like Cage in general, sometimes he can be a little difficult like that because he has very distinct feelings of how he wants the performance to go. But it's a director's job to hone him in and get the performance that he has on paper out of that actor. Well,
I wonder if there was some give and take with this, where Cage had some ideas of how to play it, and Lynch went along with it, and let him do it, and that's sort of why they worked well together.
I think that's one of the strengths of David Lynch in general is he is never going to turn down an interesting idea. So I'm sure there were lots from Cage. So I'm sure he brought a lot to this character in the process. I'll jump into mine. My Cageometer. This movie, I feel like, really benefits from repeat viewings. I think it's a movie that just gets better as you watch it. You know, it's like a good song, like that you might not have gotten the first time.
I get that.
As you start to get it, it just gets more and more enjoyable. So I give the movie an 8 out of 10, which originally, like, I had seen it a long time ago. And when I started, and I rewatched it for this show, I was like, it's maybe like a 6. But the more I watched it and the more I like dove into all the little nooks and crannies of the film, and then when I did the breakdown especially, started noticing like how fucking unique and interesting every single moment put to film is in this movie. And like I said, the story is simple. It's a very simple story of like a mom doesn't want her daughter dating the guy who drove for a hitman, you know, that might know more than he should know about her killing
that old
somebody.
Story.
Yeah, it's a very simple story, but it's told in such a fantastical, weird way, which David Lynch does so well. I've seen quite a few David Lynch movies, and you never know what to expect. And, you know, say what you will about him as an auteur and just a weirdo filmmaker, but like the guy makes every moment memorable. Some of the weirdest shit I've ever seen in my life has come from David Lynch movies.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that is 100% his strength is like I said, like there's just a character on screen for a second and he somehow makes him memorable. Like the guy snapping in the gas station, the guy making chipmunk noises at the frickin' band, like the guy with the crutches with the British accent, like every single one of those things is just like, you didn't have to do that. You could have just had a normal guy. You didn't even have to have that scene with the guy quacking at them.
Right.
Like it's so unnecessary, but it just adds like this level of weirdness that draws you into this story and these characters and the shit happening all around them. And like you said, it kind of grounds their love story of like, here's these two pretty normal but unique individuals making their way through the world, and they're just surrounded by this surreal, bizarre fantasy world. So I loved it. I loved it, especially the second time around after not seeing it for a long time. I think it's kind of a little masterpiece. I give Cage a 7 as well. So 7s across the board. I'll kind of echo the same things like him and Laura Dern, amazing. I feel like he's very memorable in this, but also kind of disappears a little bit. It's not cagey. It has a couple cagey moments here and there, but I'm sure those were like David Lynch was all over, like, let's just make this more and more uncomfortable in this scene. And that's kind of his thing. I think this movie could be cringy to a lot of people.
Yeah, I can see
but
that.
I love that cringe for whatever reason. I've always been really into that. But Cage grounds you. Laura Dern, like Nigel said, like, you know, she's kind of the breakout star in this. And it's, you know, no surprise that Laura Dern went on to have amazing success, especially, you know, in the early 90s. Like right after this, it was like 3 years from now was Jurassic Park. And I feel like that's where most people know her from. But David Lynch definitely saw how brilliant she could be. And it's kind of crazy to come from, you know, that generational talent from Diane Ladd and Bruce Dern, and for her to sometimes somewhat overtake them as far as her career has gone. And she's still doing it.
Yeah, she's still crushing it today.
Not necessarily in Jurassic World 17 or whatever.
That's
Iowa
paycheck.
shit, but yeah, got to make that money. Anyways, yeah, Cage is great. He's just kind of the straight man, really, in this whole thing, which is kind of funny.
Weird.
Like,
Yeah, it's weird. But
Cage being the straight man.
That's what I liked about his performances. He's a little more of the straight man. He wasn't the fantastical person for once.
Yeah, which is crazy because he's wearing a snakeskin jacket and doing an Elvis impression, but he's somehow the straight man throughout the whole movie.
I love it.
Here it is, the moment you've all been waiting for. These are the cagiest moments of the film.
How's that cute little cunt Lula feel about that?
Uh-oh.
Kid, you belong in one of these toilets.
You filthy piece of white trash. You...
Sailor!
You up for that?
I'd go the far end of the world for you, baby. Oh, you know I would.
Rockin' good news. Those toenails about dry yet, sweetheart? We got some dancing to do. Man, I had a boner with a capital O. Anyway, I found her lying in a room filled with assault weapons and spank house magazines. Well, her face was half pushed into the pillow. And I remember she looked back over her shoulder at me and said, I won't suck you. Don't ask me to suck you.
Oh, poor baby, she doesn't know what she missed.
Hey, hello, girl. You gotta come with us, honey.
Feed store keeps up to 5K and they're safe. Need me a good boy for backup, even split. You interested?
No, man. I don't think so.
I'm in back. What the hell's she doing here, man?
She's my girl.
Come on, man!
You're next, fucker.
God! God!
Those are dummies.
Dummy. Okay. Why don't you step up here, hot shot? I'll slap that smile right off your face. What do you faggots want?
That's it for this episode of One Cage at a Time. As always, be sure to drop us an email at onecagepodcast@gmail.com to let us know if we missed anything, or hit us up with suggestions to improve the show, comments, compliments, or simply to gush about the legend that is Sailor Ripley. Next, we'll be talking ever so briefly about Cage's one other collaboration with David Lynch, the concert film / acid trip industrial symphony #1, The Dream of the Brokenhearted. Gotta say the whole name there. Nick and his Wild at Heart co-star Laura Dern sort of reprise their characters from the film to play lovers breaking up over the phone, and then we're treated to a jaunt through the subconscious mind of Laura's character processing the breakup through a nightmarish concert film performed by Angelo Badalamenti. However you say his name. Badalamenti. And Twin Peaks theme performer Julie Cruz. This is kind of her concert, really. It's all on her debut album. But we're not gonna talk about it. It's gonna be like a 10-minute long episode. Literally, we're gonna talk about the little scene with Cage and Laura Dern, and then we're gonna briefly talk about the concert, and then we're gonna introduce our next movie. So we'll just go straight through it. But we can't not talk about it. I mean, we talked about Best of Times. We got to talk about Industrial Symphony.
Best of Times.
Anyways, make sure to check it out on YouTube for free. It's the only place I know to watch it. And bask in its bizarre as hell splendor. There's like baby dolls hanging from the ceiling and little people coming out of trunks. It's just weird. It's just really weird. What else would you expect, honestly? Yeah. David Lynch. Until then, we'll say goodbye the way we do each and every episode with our Nicolas Cage quote of the film.
Baby, I got a surprise for you.
Hey, my snakeskin jacket! Thanks, baby! Did I ever tell you that this here jacket represents a symbol of my individuality and my belief in personal freedom?
About 50,000 times.
Thanks for listening to One Cage at a Time. Visit us online at onecageatatime.com or follow us on the social media platform of your choice for more Nicolas Cage goodness. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you really like the show, become a member of our Patreon, where you can download unedited and ad-free episodes, as well as listen to our follow-up show, Back Into the Cage, where we re-examine each movie to discuss what we missed the first time around, answer listener questions, and wax poetic about the man, the myth, the legend that is Nicolas Cage.
Gentlemen, I'd like to take this opportunity to ask you, please, clear out.
How rude.
Me too?
Yeah, you too.